What if the most dangerous mind in anime was reborn as Naruto Uzumaki? Since the dawn of time, only the victors write history. Sosuke Aizen, the man who fooled everyone for a century, now has the body of Konoha's loudest ninja. But behind those blue eyes lies a transcendent being who once challenged gods. Perfect hypnosis isn't about what they see, it's what I let them believe. This isn't about becoming Hokage, this is about a god reclaiming his throne. You've never seen anything like this.
In the hidden village of Konoha, a child was born amidst catastrophe. The nine-tailed fox's attack claimed many lives, including those of the fourth Hokage and his wife, who sealed the beast within their newborn son. The village elders named him Naruto Uzumaki, unaware that this infant vessel housed not one, but two entities of immense power. While the Kyuubi raged against its prison, something far more profound stirred within the child's soul. Memories, countless, ancient memories of another life, another world, another existence of godhood and betrayal. The consciousness of Sosuke Aizen, former captain of the 5th Division, master manipulator, and would-be god, had been reborn. Unlike most reincarnations, where past lives remain forgotten, Aizen's overwhelming spiritual power and connection to the Hogyoku had preserved his consciousness intact. As the infant Naruto slept in his crib at the orphanage, Aizen's mind began the slow process of awakening. Interesting, thought Aizen as he first became aware within the child's mind. A new world, a new vessel, and what appears to be a most intriguing cellmate. Within the mindscape, Aizen's consciousness materialized before the massive cage holding the nine-tailed fox. The beast snarled, its enormous red eyes glaring down at what appeared to be a brown-haired man in white robes. "What manner of human are you?" the Kyuubi growled. "You are not my jailer." Aizen smiled that perfect, disarming smile that had fooled Soul Society for centuries. "I am Sosuke Aizen, and you, magnificent creature, are going to help me reshape this world." The fox laughed, a sound of pure malevolence. "I am the nine-tailed fox, the strongest of the tailed beasts. I bow to no one." "How fascinating," Aizen replied, completely unfazed. "Allow me to demonstrate why that perspective will change. Shatter, Kyokasui Getsu." The mindscape rippled as Aizen activated his Zanpakuto's power. Kanzen Simon. The Kyuubi's eyes widened as its perception was instantly captured by Aizen's complete hypnosis. The beast fought against the influence, but even its immense power couldn't resist Aizen's transcendent abilities. "Impossible," the fox roared, struggling against invisible bonds. "Nothing is impossible for one who has transcended the boundaries between Shinigami and Hollow, between God and mortal," Aizen explained calmly. "In time, you will understand that resistance is merely inconvenient. For now, we have years of development ahead before this body can properly channel my power." The years of early childhood passed slowly for Aizen, trapped in the underdeveloped body of an infant, then a toddler. But patience had always been his virtue. Where the original Naruto would have suffered from isolation and neglect, Aizen's consciousness remained unaffected by such trivial matters. The loneliness that would have broken another child merely provided him with time to plan. By age 4, young Naruto had developed enough cognitive function for Aizen to begin subtle manipulations of his physical form. The whisker marks remained, a useful tool for maintaining the expected appearance. But gradually, the child's features began to change. His blonde hair darkened slightly at the roots, his blue eyes occasionally flashing brown when he was alone. His face structure began its slow transformation toward Aizen's devastatingly handsome visage. At age 5, Naruto demonstrated his first prodigious ability when an orphanage caretaker cornered him with murderous intent. "Demon brat," the man had snarled. "No one would miss you if you disappeared." The child looked up with eyes suddenly far too calculating for a 5-year-old. "Hado no one show," he whispered, extending his hand. The caretaker flew backward as if struck by an invisible force, crashing through a wooden door. When others came running, they found only a crying child and an unconscious man who, when awakened, had no memory of what had transpired. The third Hokage, who had been watching over Naruto from afar, noticed these anomalies. During one of his visits, he found the boy reading advanced texts that should have been beyond his comprehension. "You have quite the appetite for knowledge, Naruto," Hiruzen observed with a grandfatherly smile. Naruto looked up, his expression momentarily calculating before shifting to childlike enthusiasm. "I want to learn everything, Gigi. If I'm going to be Hokage someday, I need to be the smartest." Hiruzen chuckled, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. Something about the boy's gaze seemed older. "Tell me," Naruto asked with feigned innocence, "what do you know about the concept of reincarnation, Lord Third?" The question caught Hiruzen off guard. That's quite the philosophical topic for someone your age. "I have dreams sometimes," Naruto said, carefully measuring his words. "Of another place, another life. It feels real." The Hokage's eyes narrowed slightly. Was this some effect of the Nine Tails? Dreams are just dreams, Naruto, though sometimes they can feel very real indeed. "Of course," Naruto replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just dreams." After the Hokage left, Naruto's expression shifted to one of cool calculation. How predictable, Aizen thought through the child's mind. He suspects something, but attributes it to the fox. Perfect. That night, Naruto entered his mindscape again, standing before the Kyuubi's cage. The beast had grown less hostile over time, recognizing the futility of opposing the entity that shared its host's body. "Your power is impressive," Aizen acknowledged. "Raw, primordial chakra that this world fears. But it lacks refinement." "What do you want, Aizen?" the fox growled. "A partnership of sorts, but I will grant you more freedom than this seal allows, and in return, you will lend me your power when necessary." The Kyuubi laughed darkly. "You speak as if you could alter the fourth Hokage's seal." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "The seal is impressive, but fundamentally flawed. It was designed to gradually integrate your chakra with my own. With minor adjustments, I can accelerate this process while giving you limited access to my senses." "Why would you risk such a thing?" "Risk?" Aizen smiled. "There is no risk when the outcome is predetermined. You will serve my purpose, whether willingly or not. But willing cooperation is more efficient." Over the following year, Aizen methodically altered the seal from within, using knowledge that transcended the boundaries of both his old world and this new one. The Hogyoku's essence, still embedded in his soul, responded to his will, facilitating changes that should have been impossible. By age 6, Naruto Uzumaki entered the academy, already a carefully constructed facade. To the world, he appeared to be a somewhat quieter version of what they expected, still prone to occasional pranks, strategic ones that tested security measures, still seeking attention from precisely the right people, but with an underlying intelligence that confused his instructors. He scores perfectly on written exams, Iruka Umino reported to the Hokage, but deliberately underperforms in practical demonstrations. "Perhaps he fears showing his true abilities," Hiruzen suggested. "That's just it, Lord Hokage. It's not fear. It's calculation. He watches everything, everyone. Sometimes I feel like he's not learning at all, but studying us." The Hokage puffed on his pipe thoughtfully. "Continue to observe him, Iruka, but be careful not to make him feel targeted." "Yes, Lord Hokage." What neither realized was that Naruto had already cataloged every weakness, every strength, every potential use and threat posed by each of his instructors. Iruka's compassionate nature made him manipulable. Mizuki's hidden resentment made him predictable. Every piece on the board was being assessed with meticulous precision. During taijutsu training, Naruto carefully maintained the appearance of slightly below average skill, occasionally allowing glimpses of greater ability before appearing to falter. "Your stance is all wrong, Naruto," Mizuki would say with barely disguised contempt. "Sorry, sensei," Naruto would reply with false embarrassment, while mentally noting, "Your left knee shows signs of an old injury. Strike there, and you would collapse instantly." His classmates viewed him with mixed feelings. Not the class clown of the original timeline, this Naruto was quiet, occasionally charming, and strangely difficult to remember details about after interactions. Shikamaru Nara, with his exceptional intelligence, was perhaps the only one who found this truly troubling. "There's something off about him," he mentioned to Choji once, "like he's wearing a mask." "Everyone wears masks sometimes," Choji replied between bites of chips. "Not like this. It's like he's calculating everything." This observation was closer to the truth than anyone realized. By age 7, Naruto had begun subtle chakra exercises in private that no academy student should have been capable of. He could walk up trees and across water with perfect control. He had adapted several Kido techniques to function with chakra rather than reishi, creating his own unique jutsu in the process. Bakudo number 1, Sai, he whispered one evening, pointing at a wild rabbit. The animal's limbs instantly locked behind its back, immobilized by invisible force. Interesting. The conversion from spiritual energy to chakra requires approximately 30% more power, but offers greater stability. Each night, Naruto would enter his mindscape to continue his work on the seal and his negotiations with the Kyuubi. Your captors fear you for good reason, Aizen told the fox. They lack vision. They see only destruction in your power, not the potential for creation. And you claim to see differently? The fox replied skeptically. I see everything differently because I see the truth behind the illusions of this world. Power is neither good nor evil. It simply is. Those worthy of wielding it shape reality to their will. The fox studied him with ancient eyes. And what reality would you shape, Sosuke Aizen? Aizen smiled. One where gods are no longer bound by the limitations imposed by lesser beings. By age 8, Naruto had established connections with key individuals throughout the village. Not friendships. Aizen had no need for such trivial bonds, but strategic relationships that would serve his future plans. He frequented Ichiraku Ramen, not out of any particular love for the food, but because the proprietor and his daughter were perfect sources of village gossip and offered unwavering support that enhanced his public image. He occasionally allowed the Hokage to catch him practicing advanced techniques, carefully curated to suggest a prodigy working hard to overcome disadvantages, rather than a transcendent being toying with mortals. Impressive shadow clone technique. Naruto, Hiruzen commented during one such coincidental encounter. That's a Jonin-level jutsu. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I found it in a scroll and thought it looked cool. It took me weeks to get it right. Most impressive indeed, the Hokage said, his eyes calculating. With your unique chakra reserves, this technique could be particularly useful for you. Really? That's awesome! Naruto exclaimed with perfectly feigned excitement. Later, alone in his apartment, Naruto smirked. The shadow clone jutsu, a technique that divides chakra equally among all clones. For anyone else, a limitation. For me, merely an inconvenience. He formed a single hand seal, and suddenly 50 perfect copies of himself stood in the small apartment, each possessing enough chakra to perform most high-level techniques. Begin, the original commanded. Each clone started a different training exercise, some practicing hand seals at blinding speed, others manipulating chakra in increasingly complex patterns, others studying scrolls on advanced ninja arts. With the shadow clone's ability to transfer memories upon dispelling, Aizen had found the perfect method to accelerate his mastery of this world's techniques. Meanwhile, within the seal, the Kyuubi had grown increasingly compliant as Aizen's modifications granted it greater awareness of the outside world and more comfortable conditions within its prison. Your chakra control has improved significantly, the fox noted during one of their conversations. Of course, Aizen replied. This body is beginning to properly channel my true abilities. Soon, we will begin the next phase, which is graduation, and the first public demonstration of power that will reshape this world's understanding of what's possible. By age 9, Naruto's physical appearance had begun to change more noticeably. His formerly spiky blonde hair now fell in soft waves, gradually darkening to a light brown at the roots. His face had lost its roundness, developing the more refined features that had characterized Aizen in his prime. His whisker marks remained, but appeared more like deliberate markings than birthmarks. Only his blue eyes stayed mostly unchanged, though they now held the calculating depth that had made captains shudder in another world. His academy classmates noticed these changes, but couldn't quite articulate what was happening. Whenever someone mentioned how different Naruto looked, they would suddenly find themselves unable to recall exactly what had changed. Has Naruto always looked like that? Sakura asked Ino once during kunai practice. Ino frowned. Like what? I don't know. Different. Older, maybe? Don't be silly, Ino replied after a moment of confusion. He's always looked like that. I guess you're right, Sakura said, suddenly uncertain of why she'd even brought it up. Naruto, overhearing this, smiled slightly. Kanzen Simon, he had whispered days earlier when addressing the entire class during a presentation, subtly activating Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis on everyone present. With this, he could gradually alter how they perceived his appearance without raising alarm. His academic performance had stabilized at exactly third in the class, behind Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. Not high enough to draw unwanted attention, but sufficient to be taken seriously. His practical skills remained deliberately inconsistent, brilliant one day, struggling the next, creating the impression of a talented student with concentration issues rather than a master playing with forces beyond mortal comprehension. Aruka remained puzzled by his most enigmatic student. His written answers sometimes contain concepts I've never taught, ideas that shouldn't be accessible to Jinin or even Chunin. Perhaps he has been studying independently, the Hokage suggested. That's just it, Lord Hokage. The concepts aren't just advanced. Some of them contradict established chakra theory, yet when tested, they work perfectly. It's as if he's developing his own system. Hiruzen's concern deepened. Has he shown any signs of drawing on the Nine Tails' power? Never. His chakra signature remains stable, if unusually large. There's never been any trace of the fox's influence. What they couldn't know was that Aizen had perfected the art of concealing the Kyuubi's chakra behind his own unique spiritual pressure, now fully adapted to this world's energy system. At age 10, Naruto began the subtle manipulation of his classmates' perceptions and loyalties, not through crude means like friendship or intimidation, but through carefully orchestrated scenarios that showcased precisely the qualities he wished each person to associate with him. For Sasuke, he arranged a training coincidence where the last Uchiha observed him performing a complex fire jutsu sequence before deliberately failing the final hand seal. "You're doing it wrong," Sasuke stated flatly, unable to resist correcting the mistake. Naruto turned with perfectly feigned surprise. "Oh, Sasuke, I didn't see you there. What am I doing wrong? Your tiger seal is sloppy. The chakra leaks from your index finger." "Really? Would you show me?" Reluctantly, Sasuke demonstrated the proper form. Naruto copied it perfectly on the first try, producing a fireball that matched Sasuke's in size and intensity. "Wow, that made all the difference. Thanks!" Naruto exclaimed with calculated enthusiasm. Sasuke frowned. "How did you master it that quickly?" "Oh, I just have good chakra control sometimes. Nothing like your natural talent, though." Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "Hey, would you mind if I trained here sometimes? I promise not to bother you." Sasuke considered for a moment. "Do what you want," he finally said before walking away. To anyone observing, it appeared that Naruto had simply gained a reluctant training acquaintance. What actually occurred was far more subtle. Sasuke had been shown someone who could match his abilities but acknowledge his superiority, a perfect combination to lower his guard while maintaining his ego. The fact that Naruto could instantly master a technique that had taken Sasuke weeks to perfect was dismissed as a fluke by the Uchiha's pride. For Sakura and Ino, Aizen employed different tactics. Rather than pursuing Sakura romantically, as the original Naruto might have, he positioned himself as an intellectual equal who respected her mind above her appearance. During a particularly difficult theoretical lesson on chakra circulation, Naruto accidentally left notes on her desk that contained an elegant solution to the problem that had stumped even her. "Did you write these?" she asked after class, holding up the notes. "Oh, those," Naruto replied with calculated modesty. "Just some ideas I was playing with. Did they help?" "They're brilliant," Sakura admitted reluctantly. "How did you come up with this approach?" "I just visualize chakra differently sometimes. I could show you sometime if you want." The offer was casual, non-threatening, and positioned him as a peer rather than a suitor. It was far more effective at gaining her respect than any romantic gesture could have been. For Shikamaru, whose intelligence posed the greatest potential threat to Aizen's manipulations, a different approach was required. During a shogi match with Asuma that Naruto happened to observe, he waited until Shikamaru had won before commenting. "You sacrificed your gold general to create an opening," Naruto observed. "Risky." Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. "You know shogi?" "A little, My moves would probably be too obvious for someone of your caliber. This careful balance of knowledge and deference intrigued Shikamaru enough to offer game. Naruto played brilliantly, but not too brilliantly. He challenged Shikamaru while ultimately allowing him to win after a demanding match. "You're better than you let on," Shikamaru noted afterward. Naruto shrugged. "Different kind of intelligence, I guess. You see 12 moves ahead. I just see patterns." This explanation, deliberately vague yet plausible, gave Shikamaru a framework to categorize Naruto that wouldn't trigger his suspicions. Not a strategic genius like himself, but an intuitive thinker who recognized patterns. Potentially useful, but not a threat to his position as the class's true intellectual. By systematically applying such techniques to each classmate, Naruto constructed a network of relationships that served his purposes perfectly. None were close friendships. Aizen had no need for such things, but each person believed they understood some aspect of Naruto that others didn't, creating a fragmented perception that no one could fully piece together. When their final year at the academy began, Naruto had positioned himself exactly where he wanted to be. Respected but underestimated, connected but not encumbered, with his true nature and abilities completely concealed behind layers of carefully constructed facades. The transformation of his appearance had progressed steadily. Now 11, Naruto stood the most of his classmates, his features taking on more of Aizen's handsome, aristocratic quality. His hair, now a medium brown with only hints of blonde at the tips, fell in that characteristic sweep with a single strand across his face. Only the whisker marks and blue eyes remained as reminders of his original appearance. When questioned about these changes, classmates and teachers would momentarily look confused before insisting that he had always looked this way, the power of Kyokusuigetsu altering their perception and memories in real time. As graduation approached, Naruto began preparations for the next phase of his plan. Within his mindscape, he addressed the nine-tailed fox. "The time approaches for our first true demonstration of power," he informed the beast. "You've been unusually restrained," the Kyuubi noted. "I expected more dramatics from someone who claims godhood." Aizen smiled that perfect, unsettling smile. Gods don't need to prove themselves to insects, but occasionally, a demonstration serves a purpose. There is a Chunin instructor, Mizuki, whose resentment and ambition make him the perfect pawn. You intend to use him? He intends to use me. I'm simply allowing it on my terms. The graduation exam came, and Naruto performed exactly as planned. His written test was perfect, his weapon's accuracy above average, his taijutsu competent but not exceptional. For the clone technique, however, he deliberately produced a malformed clone, resulting in a failing grade. "I'm sorry, Naruto," Iruka said with genuine regret. "You can't pass without successfully performing the clone jutsu." Naruto hung his head in calculated disappointment. "I understand, Iruka-sensei." After the other students had left with their headbands and proud parents, Naruto sat alone on a swing, projecting an image of dejection that was entirely for show. Right on cue, Mizuki approached. "Don't take it too hard, Naruto. Iruka only wants what's best for you." "I know," Naruto sighed. "I just wanted to prove I could do it." "Well," Mizuki leaned in conspiratorially, "there is another way to graduate." Naruto's eyes widened with perfectly feigned hope. "Really?" As Mizuki explained the special graduation test, stealing the forbidden scroll of sealing, Aizen inwardly laughed at the predictability of it all. Not only would this give him access to forbidden techniques, but it would create exactly the scenario he needed for his first calculated revelation of power. That night, Naruto easily bypassed the Hokage's security, child's play for someone who had infiltrated Soul Society's most protected areas, and obtained the scroll. Rather than immediately going to the meeting point, he spent an hour memorizing every technique in the scroll, his perfect recall capturing each detail. When Iruka finally found him in the forest, Naruto was prepared. "Naruto, what were you thinking, stealing the sacred scroll?" Naruto looked up with practiced innocence. "Mizuki-sensei said this was a special test to graduate. I've been practicing the techniques. Look, I can do the shadow clone jutsu now." Before Iruka could respond, multiple kunai flew toward them. Mizuki had arrived, perched on a nearby branch. "Well done finding him, Iruka," Mizuki called down. "Now, Naruto, give me the scroll." "Don't do it, Naruto." Iruka shouted. Mizuki is trying to steal the scroll for himself. Naruto, Mizuki sneered. Do you want to know why the village hates you? Why you've been alone all your life? No, Mizuki, it's forbidden, Iruka protested. The nine-tailed fox that attacked the village 12 years ago wasn't killed. It was sealed inside a baby, you. You are the nine-tailed fox. There was a moment of silence as Naruto stood perfectly still, his head lowered. Then, unexpectedly, he began to laugh. Not the nervous laugh of a confused child, but a low, confident chuckle that sent chills down both Chunin's spines. Is that all? Naruto asked, his voice suddenly deeper, more refined than they had ever heard it. He looked up, and both men gasped. His eyes, normally blue, now shone brown with an unnatural glow. His entire demeanor transformed. What's happening? Mizuki demanded, suddenly uncertain. Did you really think, Naruto continued, his voice now fully Aizen's, cultured and commanding, that such trivial information would shock me? How disappointing! He stepped forward, and the air around him seemed to distort with pressure. Allow me to educate you on what true power looks like. Bakudo Merp 61, Rikujokoro. 6 beams of light slammed into Mizuki's midsection, immobilizing him completely. The Chunin's eyes widened in shock as he found himself unable to move. What jutsu is this? He gasped. Not a jutsu, Naruto corrected calmly. Something far beyond your limited understanding. Iruka stared in disbelief. Naruto, how are you doing this? Iruka-sensei? Naruto turned to him with a smile that was both charming and terrifying. I believe I've passed the special test now. But perhaps we should deliver this traitor to the Hokage first? The Hokage, who had been watching through his crystal ball, arrived with Anbu moments later. They found Mizuki still bound by the strange light technique, Iruka looking shaken, and Naruto looking remarkably composed for someone who had just learned he contained a demon. Are you all right, Naruto? Hiruzen asked cautiously. Perfectly fine, Lord Hokage, Naruto replied with a respectful bow, though I believe we have much to discuss. In the Hokage's office later, after Mizuki had been taken to torture and interrogation, Hiruzen studied the boy before him with new eyes. That technique you used, it's not in any Konoha records. No, Naruto agreed, it wouldn't be. It's something I developed on my own. Based on what principles the Hokage pressed? Naruto smiled enigmatically. Let's just say I've always had a unique perspective on chakra manipulation. And the Nine Tails? How do you feel about learning of its presence? Honestly, it explains a great deal. The villagers' treatment, my unusual chakra reserves. In a way, it's liberating to finally understand. The Hokage's eyes narrowed slightly. This was not the reaction he had expected. Most children would be devastated by such news. I'm not most children, Lord Hokage. Naruto replied with a smile that seemed far too mature for his age. I've always known I was different. Now I simply know why. After extracting a promise to keep the forbidden techniques he'd learned to himself, Hiruzen allowed Naruto to leave with a new headband, officially graduating him to Genin rank. As Naruto walked home through the darkened streets, he allowed himself a genuine smile of satisfaction. The first public demonstration of his power had been perfectly calibrated, impressive enough to establish his prodigious status, but not so overwhelming as to raise immediate alarms. The technique he'd used was but a fraction of his true abilities, yet had appeared miraculous to those watching. Within his mindscape, the Kyuubi observed with growing respect. You revealed just enough to intrigue them without exposing your true nature. Of course, Aizen replied. The art of manipulation lies not in grand gestures, but in carefully measured revelations. They now see me as an unusually gifted genin with unique abilities, precisely what I want them to see. What comes next in your grand design? Aizen's smile widened. Team assignments, the formation of connections that will provide both cover and opportunity as we move toward our true goal, which is the complete reconstitution of this world order. But first, we must secure our position within the current power structure. One doesn't topple a kingdom by attacking its walls. One infiltrates its foundations. The fox's laughter echoed through the mindscape. You truly are as devious as you claim. I am exactly what I claim to be, Aizen corrected. A god temporarily constrained by mortal circumstances. But those constraints are rapidly dissolving. As dawn broke over Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, or rather, Sosuke Aizen in Naruto's increasingly transformed body, prepared for the next phase of his master plan. The pieces were in position. The game had truly begun. The day of team assignments arrived, and Naruto entered the classroom with calculated precision. His appearance had stabilized into what could only be described as a perfect blend of his original form and Aizen's true visage. Brown hair with faint blonde highlights swept elegantly with that signature strand across his face, whisker marks now appearing almost aristocratic, and eyes that shifted between blue and brown depending on his mood and intent. His classmates had long since been conditioned by Kyoka Suigetsu to perceive these changes as natural, though occasionally someone would experience a moment of cognitive dissonance, quickly dismissed and forgotten. Naruto took a seat beside Sasuke, offering a polite nod that the Uchiha returned with minimal acknowledgement. Their carefully constructed quasi-rivalry had developed exactly as Aizen had planned: mutual respect without friendship, recognition without attachment. Iruka entered and began announcing teams. Naruto listened with apparent casual interest, though he had already deduced the most likely combinations based on skill balancing and village politics. Team 7, Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your Jonin instructor will be Kakashi Hatake. Perfect, exactly as he'd anticipated. The Jinchuriki, the top Kunoichi, and the last Uchiha, a team designed to balance each other's strengths and weaknesses. What the village planners couldn't know was how thoroughly Aizen had already mapped out and prepared for this arrangement. Sakura was delighted to be with Sasuke and surprisingly comfortable with Naruto's inclusion, thanks to his carefully cultivated intellectual rapport with her. Sasuke remained indifferent, viewing both teammates as potential assets or liabilities depending on their performance. After the other teams departed with their Jonin instructors, Team 7 waited and waited. 3 hours passed before Kakashi finally appeared. My first impression of you all: you're boring, the silver-haired Jonin declared, observing how they had separated themselves in the classroom. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. On the roof, Kakashi leaned against the railing. Let's introduce ourselves, likes, dislikes, dreams for the future, that sort of thing. Perhaps you could demonstrate, Sensei? Naruto suggested smoothly. Kakashi's visible eye focused on Naruto with subtle intensity. I'm Kakashi Hatake. Things I like and dislike, I don't feel like telling you. Dreams for the future. Never really thought about it. I have lots of hobbies. So informative, Sakura muttered. You next, Pinky, Kakashi pointed. After Sakura and Sasuke gave their predictable introductions, Kakashi turned to Naruto. And finally, our last teammate. Naruto smiled, that perfect, disarming smile that had once charmed the entire Gote 13. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I enjoy studying advanced chakra theory and strategic games. I dislike those who underestimate others based on appearance or preconception. My dream, he paused for effect, is to create a world where true power is recognized and properly utilized. Kakashi's eye narrowed slightly. That was not the introduction he had expected from the Nine-Tails' Jinchuriki. No mention of becoming Hokage, no childish enthusiasm. Instead, a measured, almost philosophical response that seemed more appropriate from a seasoned shinobi than a genin. Interesting, Kakashi remarked. Well, now that we know each other, I should tell you that we'll have our first mission tomorrow. What kind of mission? Sakura asked. A survival exercise. And I should warn you, this isn't like your academy training. Of the 27 graduates, only 9 will actually become genin. The rest will be sent back to the academy. Sasuke tensed. Sakura looked alarmed. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow, as if mildly interested in a moderately difficult puzzle. Be at training ground 3 at 5 a.m. Oh, and don't eat breakfast. You'll throw up. With that, Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves. As they departed, Naruto casually addressed his teammates. You should both eat breakfast, by the way. But Kakashi-sensei said, Sakura began. He's testing us in multiple ways, Naruto explained, including our ability to prepare properly despite contradictory instructions. A hungry ninja is an ineffective ninja. Sasuke considered this. How would you know his intentions? Pattern recognition, Naruto replied simply. The test has a 66% failure rate, which means it's designed to eliminate most candidates. Physiological stress like hunger would compound the challenge. His logical analysis impressed even Sasuke, who nodded slightly. I'll eat. Me too, Sakura agreed, not wanting to be left behind. The following morning, all three arrived at the training ground well-fed despite Kakashi's instructions. As expected, their sensei was nowhere to be found. Naruto used the waiting time productively, engaging his teammates in seemingly casual conversation that subtly assessed their combat preferences and psychological triggers. 3 hours later, Kakashi finally appeared. "Good morning, everyone." "You're late," Sakura shouted. "Well, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around," Kakashi explained with an eye smile before setting an alarm clock on a stump. "This is set for noon. Your task is simple. Get these 2 bells from me before time runs out." He dangled 2 small bells. "Whoever doesn't get a bell fails and returns to the academy. You may use any weapons or techniques. Come at me with the intent to kill, or you won't stand a chance." "But Sensei," Sakura protested, "that's dangerous." Kakashi chuckled. "You couldn't hurt me if you tried." Naruto observed the Jonin carefully. The purpose of the test was transparent to someone of Aizen's experience. It was about teamwork, not individual skill. The uneven number of bells was meant to create conflict and test whether they could see beyond the obvious challenge. "Begin," Kakashi called, and all 3 Genin disappeared into the surrounding forest. Or so it appeared. While Sasuke and Sakura had indeed hidden themselves, Naruto stood calmly in the middle of the clearing, apparently having not moved at all. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. "You know, you're a little odd." "I've been told that before," Naruto replied pleasantly, "though I find conventional approaches often miss the most elegant solutions." "And what would your elegant solution be?" "Direct negotiation. The purpose of this test isn't to get the bells, it's to demonstrate teamwork despite the artificial scarcity you've created." Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly. "Interesting theory. Not a theory, an observation based on logical deduction. Konoha emphasizes team structures for a reason. No Genin should be able to defeat a Jonin individually, making the bell requirement impossible unless approached collectively. Furthermore, returning a single Genin to the academy would disrupt the 3-person cell structure that forms the foundation of Konoha's tactical deployment." For a moment, Kakashi was speechless. Then he chuckled. "Well, you've certainly done your homework. But identifying the test's purpose doesn't automatically mean you pass." "Of course not," Naruto agreed, "which is why I've already arranged for our teamwork demonstration." At that moment, Sasuke launched a barrage of shuriken from the left, while Sakura emerged from the right, both attacking in perfect coordination. Kakashi was forced to dodge, momentarily taking his attention off Naruto, who simply reached out and plucked the bells from Kakashi's waist with blinding speed. Kakashi froze, unable to process what had just happened. The bells had been secured to his belt with a Jonin-level sealing technique. No Genin should have been able to remove them without him noticing, let alone with such casual ease. "I believe these conclude our test," Naruto stated, holding up the bells. He tossed one each to Sasuke and Sakura as they approached. "My teammates demonstrated willingness to coordinate despite the competitive framework you established. I facilitated the acquisition of the objective. Team 7 functions effectively as a unit." Sasuke and Sakura looked as shocked as Kakashi, both staring at the bells in their hands. "How did you get these?" Sasuke demanded. More importantly, Kakashi interrupted, his tone serious now. "How did you convince these 2 to work with you when there are only 2 bells?" "I explained the logical inconsistencies in the test's premise and proposed that we demonstrate our ability to function as a team first, then resolve the bell distribution afterward," Naruto explained smoothly. They agreed that approach maximized our collective chances of success. It wasn't entirely true. Naruto had used a subtle application of Kyoka Suigetsu to guide their perceptions during their brief interactions in the forest. But it was plausible enough. Kakashi studied the 3 Genin carefully. This was unprecedented. The bell test was designed to push candidates to their limits, to force them to discover the value of teamwork through struggle. Having it solved through logical deduction and flawless execution in minutes was disturbing. "Well," Kakashi finally said, "you've certainly demonstrated teamwork. But Naruto, you gave away both bells. According to the rules, you fail." "According to the stated rules, yes," Naruto acknowledged with a small smile. "But the unstated purpose of the test was to evaluate our capacity for self-sacrifice in service to the team. By voluntarily relinquishing both bells, I demonstrated precisely that quality. Kakashi stared at him for a long moment. You're either the most insightful genin I've ever met, or you somehow knew about this test beforehand. I assure you, Kakashi-sensei, I simply applied deductive reasoning to the available information. The village's emphasis on teamwork is hardly a secret. After a pause, Kakashi smiled. Well, I can't argue with results. Congratulations, you all passed. Team 7 is officially formed. We'll begin missions tomorrow. As they left the training ground, Sasuke approached Naruto. You knew exactly what he was testing. I made an educated guess, Naruto replied modestly. And the bells? I didn't even see you move. A simple misdirection technique, nothing special. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Teach me. Perhaps during our team training sessions, Naruto suggested. After all, we're a team now. This exchange was precisely what Aizen had planned. Sasuke's respect could only be earned through demonstrable skill, and now the proud Uchiha had approached him rather than the reverse. The power dynamic had been established exactly as intended. Later that evening, Kakashi reported to the Hokage. Team 7 passed, but he hesitated. But what? Hiruzen prompted. Naruto Uzumaki isn't what I expected. He solved the purpose of the bell test immediately through pure logical deduction, coordinated his teammates perfectly, and demonstrated speed I couldn't track. No genin should be capable of taking those bells from me. I couldn't even feel them being removed. The Hokage puffed on his pipe thoughtfully. Interesting. His academy reports mentioned unusual analytical abilities. This goes beyond analysis, Lord Hokage. It's as if he's operating on an entirely different level. And there's something else. His chakra signature feels strange. Not like the Nine Tails, but something I can't quite identify. Keep a close eye on him, Kakashi. His development appears to be accelerating in unexpected ways. Yes, Lord Hokage. What neither man realized was that Naruto had placed a shadow clone transformed as a fly on the wall, observing their entire conversation. Within his apartment, the real Naruto smiled as the clone's memories transferred to him upon dispelling. So predictable, he murmured. They sensed something unusual, but attributed it to the fox or to prodigious talent. Perfect. Within his mindscape, Aizen addressed the Nine Tails. The foundation is laid. Now we begin the deliberate demonstration of power, carefully measured, strategically timed. You revealed more speed than you intended with the bells, the fox observed. Not at all. Each revelation is precisely calculated. Kakashi needed to witness abilities he couldn't explain to properly report his concerns. Those concerns will be categorized and monitored rather than acted upon immediately. By the time they realize the true extent of my abilities, it will be far too late. The QB laughed deeply. You play a long game, Aizen. The only game worth playing, Aizen replied with a smile. Now, let us prepare for the next phase, the first C-rank mission, and our introduction to the wider world beyond Konoha's walls. Team 7 spent the next few weeks performing D-rank missions, mundane tasks that Naruto approached with calm efficiency rather than the frustration his teammates exhibited. Each mission, however trivial, provided opportunities to strengthen his position within the team dynamic and observe Kakashi's techniques. During training sessions, Naruto demonstrated just enough skill to impress without revealing his true capabilities. He would occasionally struggle with a technique before mastering it, creating the impression of a gifted student working hard rather than a transcendent being toying with mortal abilities. Kakashi, for his part, watched Naruto with increasing curiosity. The boy's chakra control was perfect, his strategic thinking beyond genin level, and occasionally, when he thought no one was looking, Kakashi caught glimpses of techniques he didn't recognize. It all came to a head during their 20th D-rank mission, capturing the infamous Tora the cat. As the team cornered the feline in a forested area, Naruto simply raised his hand and quietly murmured, Bakudo Marfor Hainawa. A rope of yellow energy extended from his fingers, wrapping around the cat and immobilizing it without causing harm. The cat surprisingly did not struggle, but instead became eerily calm in the energy's embrace. What technique is that? Kakashi asked sharply, his visible eye fixed on the energy construct. Something I've been developing, Naruto replied casually. A chakra binding technique for non-lethal capture, useful for missions like this. That doesn't look like any chakra manipulation I've ever seen. I've always processed chakra differently, Naruto explained with practiced humility. Perhaps because of my special circumstances. The reference to the Nine Tails was calculated to divert Kakashi's suspicions. It worked. Kakashi's expression softened slightly. Interesting. Your control is remarkable for someone with your chakra reserves. Thank you, Sensei. I've worked hard on it. Later that day, after delivering the cat and reporting to the mission desk, Naruto deliberately allowed his frustration to show as the Hokage prepared to assign another D-rank mission. With all due respect, Lord Hokage, he said with perfect politeness, undercut with just enough assertiveness, I believe Team 7 is ready for more challenging assignments. D-rank missions, while foundational, do little to develop our combat capabilities. The Hokage raised an eyebrow, surprised not by the request, but by its articulate delivery. This wasn't the impulsive outburst he might have expected from a genin tired of mundane tasks. Do you agree with this assessment, Kakashi? Hiruzen asked. Kakashi considered for a moment. They've shown excellent teamwork and completed all assigned missions efficiently. A C-rank mission might provide valuable experience. Very well, the Hokage decided. I have a C-rank protection detail. You'll be escorting a bridge builder named Tazuna back to the Land of Waves. As a disheveled, clearly intoxicated older man entered the room, Naruto sensed something immediately. The mission parameters were not as stated. The man's nervous gestures and slightly elevated heart rate suggested deception. Perfect. These brats are my protection? Tazuna complained. Especially the short one with the stupid look. While Sasuke and Sakura reacted with indignation, Naruto merely smiled. Appearances can be deceiving, Tazuna-san. Rest assured, Team 7 is more than capable of ensuring your safe return. The bridge builder seemed taken aback by Naruto's composed response, having expected anger or insecurity. As they departed to prepare for the mission, Naruto allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The mission to Wave Country would provide the perfect opportunity for the next calculated revelation of his power and the first step toward building his reputation beyond Konoha's borders. Within his mindscape, Aizen addressed the QB. The game accelerates now. Are you prepared to lend me your power when called upon? The fox grinned malevolently. I grow tired of watching from the sidelines. Show me what a god can do with my chakra. Oh, I shall, Aizen promised with a smile that would have chilled the spines of captains. This will be merely the first demonstration of many. By the time we return to Konoha, the whispers will have begun. Whispers that will eventually become the foundation of a new world order. As Team 7 gathered at Konoha's main gate the following morning, none could have imagined the true significance of this seemingly routine mission, or the devastating power that lurked behind the pleasant smile of their seemingly genin teammate. The mission to Wave Country had proceeded exactly as Aizen had anticipated. The attack by the Demon Brothers revealed the true nature of the mission, but as Aizen had calculated, Kakashi decided to continue despite the deception. The subsequent confrontation with Zabuza Momochi provided the perfect opportunity for a carefully measured display of power. When Kakashi had been trapped in Zabuza's water prison jutsu, Naruto had stepped forward with calm authority that silenced even Sasuke's protests. Zabuza Momochi, he had addressed the missing nun directly, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance that made everyone present pause. Your reputation as the Demon of the Mist is well documented. However, you face something far beyond your understanding. Zabuza had laughed. Big words from a little genin. Words backed by power, Naruto replied, his eyes shifting from blue to brown. Allow me to demonstrate. Bakudo number 63, Sajo Sabaku. Golden chains of energy erupted from the air around Naruto, shooting towards Zabuza with impossible speed. The missing nin barely had time to register surprise before the chains wrapped around his extended arm, shattering his water clone and forcing him to release the real Kakashi or risk having his arm crushed. What the hell kind of jutsu is that? Zabuza had demanded, leaping back to create distance. Naruto smiled that perfect, unsettling smile. Not a jutsu at all, something far more fundamental. The battle that followed had been calculated to perfection. Naruto allowed Kakashi to take the lead while providing support that appeared impressive but explainable. Enhanced shadow clones, precisely timed kunai throws, and strategic positioning that maximized Kakashi's effectiveness against Zabuza. When Haku had intervened to kill Zabuza, Naruto had merely watched with knowing eyes, already aware of the deception, but allowing it to play out as expected. During the week of recovery at Tazuna's house, Naruto had trained his teammates with carefully selected exercises, ones that appeared to develop their abilities while actually mapping their full capabilities and limitations for his future plans. The final confrontation on the bridge had provided the stage for the next level of revelation. Trapped within Haku's ice mirror technique alongside Sasuke, Naruto had initially allowed the Uchiha to take the lead, curious to observe how far his Sharingan would develop under pressure. When Sasuke had fallen, apparently dead from Haku's Senbon, Naruto had finally dropped a fraction of his facade. "How unfortunate," he had said, his voice no longer containing any trace of the original Naruto. "I had hoped to study the Sharingan's development further before demonstrating the true nature of power." Haku, still hidden within his mirrors, had faltered at the sudden change in the boy's demeanor. "Your friend fought bravely to protect you. Will you not grieve?" "Grief is a luxury reserved for equals," Naruto had replied, standing perfectly still as Senbon continued to rain around him, somehow missing their target entirely. Sasuke Uchiha was a useful study in human potential, nothing more. The air around Naruto had begun to distort, a pressure building that cracked the very ice mirrors from within. His eyes now glowed brown with inner light, his hair fully transformed to Aizen's characteristic style, his entire bearing that of a being beyond mortal comprehension. What are you?" Haku had whispered, truly afraid for the first time. "I am what all beings aspire to become," Naruto answered calmly as he raised his hand. "Hadama 33, Sokatsui." A massive wave of blue fire had erupted from his palm, shattering all the ice mirrors simultaneously and sending Haku crashing to the ground, his mask broken. The display had been perfectly calibrated, overwhelming enough to establish dominance, but still within the realm of what a Jinchuriki might theoretically accomplish with unusual chakra control. To Kakashi, watching from a distance as he fought Zabuza, it had appeared that Naruto had tapped into the Nine Tails' power in response to Sasuke's apparent death, a reasonable assumption that diverted attention from the true nature of the abilities displayed. Gado's arrival with his mercenaries had provided the final opportunity to solidify Naruto's growing reputation. As the crime lord mocked Zabuza and revealed his betrayal, Naruto had stepped forward, addressing the assembled mercenaries directly. "Gentlemen," he had called out, his voice carrying across the bridge with unnatural clarity. "You have a choice to make. Leave now or cease to exist. There is no third option." The mercenaries had laughed, as expected. Naruto had simply smiled and whispered, "Hado number 88, hear you Gekizoku Shinten Raiho." The resulting blast of electrical energy had carved a path of destruction through the mercenaries' ranks, leaving a smoking crater where 20 men had stood moments before. The remaining forces had fled in terror, leaving Gado alone to face Zabuza's final vengeance. The village had hailed Team 7 as heroes naturally, with the bridge named in Naruto's honor rather than the original timeline's Great Naruto Bridge. More importantly, whispers had begun spreading throughout the elemental nations of a golden-eyed demon in Konoha with powers beyond comprehension. Now, 2 months later, Team 7 stood before the Hokage, receiving their official nomination for the Chunin exams. "Are you certain they're ready, Kakashi?" Hiruzen asked, his eyes lingering on Naruto, whose appearance had now fully stabilized into Aizen's perfect form, with only the whisker marks remaining as a reminder of his vessel's origin. "More than ready, Lord Hokage," Kakashi confirmed. "After their performance in Wave Country, I believe holding them back would be a disservice." "Very well," the Hokage agreed, handing over the application forms. "The exams begin in 1 week. I expect Konoha's Genin to represent us honorably." As they left the Hokage Tower, Sasuke approached Naruto. Their relationship had evolved since Wave Country. The Uchiha's near-death experience and subsequent awakening of his Sharingan had given him a new perspective on power and its acquisition. "You've been holding back in our training sessions," Sasuke stated flatly. Naruto smiled. "We all have techniques we prefer to keep in reserve, Sasuke. I've shown you exactly what you needed to see to develop your own abilities." Those weren't Nine-Tails techniques you used on the bridge. No, Naruto agreed, seeing no reason to deny what Sasuke had witnessed firsthand. There's something more personal. Will you use them in the exams? If necessary. The exams provide an excellent opportunity to establish certain reputations. Sasuke studied him for a moment. You're nothing like what everyone thought you were. Few things are, Naruto replied with that perfect, enigmatic smile. The world operates on illusion, Sasuke. The illusion of safety, the illusion of hierarchy, the illusion of power. True power lies in recognizing which illusions to maintain and which to shatter. The week before the exams passed quickly. Naruto spent the time meticulously planning for every contingency, including the inevitable invasion by sand and sound forces. Through carefully placed shadow clones transformed into inconspicuous insects, he had already mapped Orochimaru's involvement and Tsunagakure's reluctant participation. Rather than prevent the invasion, Aizen saw it as the perfect stage for the next phase of his plan, a large-scale demonstration of power that would eliminate several obstacles while positioning himself advantageously in the aftermath. The day before the exams, Naruto met with his teammates at their usual training ground. Tomorrow will define our futures in ways beyond simple promotion, he told them. The eyes of all 5 great nations will be upon these exams. It's essential that we present ourselves appropriately. You mean we should win, Sasuke translated. I mean we should dominate, Naruto corrected. Victory alone accomplishes little. Overwhelming, undeniable superiority creates lasting impressions that shape future interactions. Sakura, who had grown increasingly perceptive since Wave Country, studied Naruto carefully. You're planning something beyond just passing the exams, aren't you? Naruto smiled approvingly. Perceptive as always, Sakura. Let's just say I have a broader vision for Team 7's future than simple rank advancement. The first phase of the exams, Ibiki's written test, posed no challenge whatsoever. Naruto answered all questions with perfect precision while simultaneously using Kyoka Suigetsu's subtle influence to ensure his teammates could access the answers they needed. When Ibiki delivered his final question, Naruto didn't even bother to raise his hand in defiance as the original timelines Naruto had done. Such theatrical gestures were unnecessary. He simply sat calmly, emanating an aura of absolute certainty that steadied the nerves of those genins sitting nearby. As they entered the forest of death for the second phase, Naruto addressed his teammates with quiet authority. We'll be targeted quickly, he informed them. Our team composition makes us high priority for elimination. By who? Sakura asked nervously. Multiple teams, but primarily one individual whose interest lies specifically in Sasuke. When he appears, allow me to handle the interaction. Sasuke frowned. If someone's targeting me, I should. You should observe and prepare, Naruto interrupted smoothly. Some opponents are beyond your current capabilities, Sasuke. Recognizing that fact is not weakness, it's strategic awareness. Before Sasuke could protest further, Naruto tensed slightly. Speaking of which, Sakura, 3 o'clock, approximately 200 meters, team from Omegakure approaching rapidly. The Rain Ninja attacked moments later, only to find themselves hopelessly outmatched. Naruto didn't bother with elaborate techniques. Simple, devastating taijutsu was sufficient, his movements too fast for the genin to track as he disabled all 3 with precise strikes to pressure points. Earth Scroll, he announced, retrieving it from the unconscious team. Combined with our Heaven Scroll, we have what we need to proceed directly to the tower. That was efficient, Sasuke commented, unable to completely hide his impression at Naruto's speed. Efficiency should always be prioritized over spectacle, Naruto replied. However, our direct path to the tower will be interrupted approximately 2 kilometers northeast of our position. That's when the real test begins. As if on cue, a massive wind technique tore through the forest as they approached the exact location Naruto had specified, separating the team and sending Sakura and Sasuke in one direction, while Naruto was blown in another. When Naruto regrouped with his teammates, they were already facing a grass ninja whose body language instantly revealed their true identity to Aizen's experienced eyes. Ah, what fortunate timing, the disguised Orochimaru said with a predatory smile. I was just getting acquainted with your teammates, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru of the Sannin, Naruto replied calmly, causing Sakura to gasp and Sasuke to tense. Your disguise is impressive, but unnecessary. We both know why you're here. The Sannin's eyes widened fractionally. My! What an interesting development. The Jinchuriki is more knowledgeable than expected. The Jinchuriki is more everything than expected, Naruto corrected, stepping forward. Sasuke, Sakura, withdraw to a safe distance. This interaction does not require your participation. Don't be absurd, Orochimaru laughed. A Genin facing a Sannin? Even with the 9 tails, you're centuries too early to challenge me. Naruto smiled, that perfect, terrifying smile that had once made captains tremble. Centuries. How remarkably imprecise. I would say I am exactly on time. Kanzen Simon. The activation of Kyoka Suigetsu was subtle. No elaborate release, no dramatic gesture. Just a single phrase and a flicker of chakra so refined that even a Sannin wouldn't register it as anything but a minor fluctuation. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. Was something supposed to happen? It already has, Naruto replied serenely. You're now experiencing the first stage of what I call complete hypnosis. From this moment forward, your senses will perceive exactly what I wish them to perceive, the Sannin laughed. Impressive confidence, but genjutsu of that level. His words cut off as his body suddenly froze in place, eyes widening in genuine shock. From his perspective, his body had spontaneously begun transforming into thousands of tiny snakes that scattered across the forest floor. Impossible, Orochimaru gasped, fighting against the illusion with all his considerable skill. No Genin could. I am no Genin, Naruto interrupted, his voice now fully Aizen's, cultured, confident, carrying the weight of centuries of power. I am something far beyond your limited imagination, Orochimaru. Something that transcends the boundaries of this world's crude power systems. While Orochimaru fought against the perfect illusion, Naruto turned to his stunned teammates. Observe carefully. This is how one neutralizes a superior opponent, by attacking not their body, but their very perception of reality. As Orochimaru thrashed against invisible bonds, Naruto approached him calmly. Your ambition to learn all jutsu is admirable, but fundamentally flawed. True power isn't found in technique accumulation, but in transcending the limitations of form itself. What are you? Orochimaru managed to ask, his legendary composure shattered by the experience of a genjutsu he couldn't break despite his mastery. I am what you aspire to become, but never could, Naruto replied. Now, I believe you intended to leave a gift for Sasuke, the cursed seal of heaven, if I'm not mistaken. An interesting technique, but ultimately, crude. Naruto placed his palm against Orochimaru's chest. Hado number 54, Hien. A blast of purple energy erupted from his hand, burning through Orochimaru's borrowed body and sending the Sannin crashing through several trees. The body disintegrated, revealing the true form of the white snake as it attempted to flee. Bakudo number 61, Riku Okoro, Naruto called out, sending 6 beams of light to immobilize the escaping snake. Your persistence is admirable, but this encounter has reached its conclusion. With a single hand seal, Naruto created 3 shadow clones that surrounded the immobilized snake. Each clone performed a different set of hand signs before slamming their palms into the ground around Orochimaru. Sealing technique, transcendent imprisonment. Naruto announced as complex sealing arrays spread from each clone, forming a triangular barrier that contracted around the Sannin. Not a permanent solution, but sufficient to contain you until after the exams conclude. The barrier compressed into a small paper seal that floated into Naruto's outstretched hand. He pocketed it casually before turning to his teammates, who stood frozen in shock. We should proceed to the tower, he suggested calmly, as if he hadn't just neutralized one of the most dangerous missing 9 in shinobi history. The forest contains other threats, albeit minor ones in comparison. What was that? Sakura finally managed to ask, her voice trembling. A demonstration, Naruto replied simply. Orochimaru's presence here indicates complications in the exam's security. We'll need to prepare accordingly. Sasuke's eyes had activated to their fully matured two-tomo state, staring at Naruto with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Those techniques weren't ninjutsu or genjutsu. No, Naruto agreed. There's something I developed based on my unique perspective on chakra manipulation. We can discuss the details later, in a more secure location. The team reached the central tower in record time, completing the second phase of the exam in just under 3 hours, a new record. As they entered, they were greeted by an astonished Iruka, who could barely process their early arrival. "How did you?" he began. "Efficient teamwork and route planning," Naruto interrupted smoothly. "More importantly, Iruka-sensei, you should inform the Hokage immediately that Orochimaru infiltrated the exam disguised as a grass ninja. We encountered and neutralized him temporarily, but additional security measures would be prudent." Iruka's eyes widened. "Orochimaru? That's impossible. No Genin team could." "With all due respect," Naruto cut in with perfect politeness, undercut with unmistakable authority, "time is of the essence. The Hokage needs this information now, not after you've finished expressing disbelief." Something in Naruto's tone, the absolute certainty, the subtle pressure of his now immense chakra, convinced Iruka to act immediately. He created a shadow clone to guide them to their waiting area, while the original rushed to report to the Hokage. As they waited for the remaining teams to complete the second phase, Naruto briefed his teammates on what to expect next. "The preliminary matches will begin once a sufficient number of teams have reached the tower," he explained. "Given our early arrival, we have approximately 4 days to prepare." "How could you possibly know there will be preliminaries?" Sakura asked. "Logical deduction. Too many teams are expected past the second phase, necessitating elimination rounds before the public finals." Naruto's explanation was perfectly reasonable, obscuring the fact that he had already mapped out the entire exam structure through his shadow clone surveillance network. When the preliminaries began, Naruto watched with calculated interest as the matches unfolded exactly as he had anticipated. Sasuke defeated his opponent efficiently, his newfound confidence after witnessing Naruto's power evident in his movements. Sakura's match against Ino ended in a double knockout, though Naruto had subtly enhanced Sakura's mental defenses beforehand, allowing her to resist Ino's mind transfer technique longer than in the original timeline. When Naruto's own match came, against Kiba Inuzuka, he decided to use it as another carefully calibrated demonstration. "I'll end this quickly," Kiba boasted as they faced each other in the arena. Naruto merely smiled. "Yes, you will experience a swift conclusion." Kiba charged forward with his partner Akamaru, initiating their fang over fang technique. Naruto stood perfectly still, not bothering to adopt any defensive stance. As the spinning attack approached, he simply raised 2 fingers. Bakudo number 8, Seki. A small blue orb of energy appeared before his raised fingers. When Kiba's attack connected with it, there was a flash of light, and the Inuzuka was repelled with such force that he slammed into the far wall, leaving a crater in the concrete. Akamaru fared no better, bouncing off a second orb and landing unconscious at the feet of a stunned Kurenai. The entire exchange had taken less than 5 seconds. Naruto hadn't moved from his starting position. "Winner, Naruto Uzumaki," Hayate announced after confirming that Kiba was unable to continue. As Naruto returned to the balcony, he noted the evaluating gazes of the Jonin present. Kakashi's visible eye was narrowed in calculation, while the disguised Orochimaru, who had escaped his temporary prison as expected, watched with undisguised interest from beneath his sound ninja disguise. Perfect. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Each calculated display brought him closer to his ultimate goal. The preliminary rounds concluded with the expected matchups for the finals, with one significant difference. Naruto would face Neji Hyuga in the first round, followed by potential matches against Sasuke and Gaara if all proceeded as expected. As the Genin were dismissed to prepare for the finals, the Hokage summoned Naruto to his office. "Your instructor reported a concerning encounter during the second phase," Hiruzen began without preamble. "You claim to have encountered Orochimaru." "Not claimed, Lord Hokage. We did encounter him. He was targeting Sasuke Uchiha, likely for his Sharingan." "And you expect me to believe that a Genin team managed to drive off a Sannin?" Naruto smiled politely. "I expect you to verify the fact through Anbu investigation of the site, which I'm certain you've already done. The residual chakra signatures and physical evidence would confirm my account." Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. The boy was right. Anbu had already discovered evidence of an intense battle, including traces of a chakra signature matching Orochimaru's. "If what you say is true, how did you manage such a feat?" I utilize techniques I've developed based on my unique circumstances, Naruto replied carefully. The Nine-Tails chakra, when properly harnessed, offers significant advantages against even Sannin-level opponents. It was a convenient explanation, one that attributed his impossible abilities to the fox's power rather than revealing their true nature. The Hokage seemed to accept it, though not without reservation. These techniques, are they something Kakashi has been teaching you? No, Lord Hokage. They're personal developments based on my independent research. I've always had an intuitive understanding of certain chakra principles that others find challenging. Hiruzen studied him for a long moment. You've changed greatly, Naruto. Not just in appearance, but in manner and ability. Some might find such rapid transformation concerning. Growth often appears concerning to those who expect stagnation, Naruto replied smoothly. I've simply embraced my potential, rather than allowing others' expectations to limit me. After a thoughtful silence, the Hokage dismissed him with a warning to be careful during the month of preparation for the finals. As Naruto left the Hokage Tower, he smiled to himself. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The month before the finals provided ample opportunity to advance his preparations for the invasion. Through his network of disguised shadow clones, Naruto mapped every aspect of Orochimaru and Tsunagakure's plans, identifying key positions, timing, and objectives. Rather than train conventionally, Naruto spent the month fine-tuning his control over the Nine-Tails chakra, integrating it more seamlessly with his own transcendent spiritual pressure. The fox, now a willing partner in his schemes, provided its power freely, fascinated by Aizen's methodical approach to domination. You could simply reveal your true power and obliterate your opponents, the Kyuubi observed during one of their Mindscape conversations. Yet you continue this elaborate charade. True conquest isn't achieved through mere destruction, Aizen explained. It requires the systematic restructuring of belief systems. People must come to accept, even desire, their new reality. That requires patience and precision. When the day of the finals arrived, Konoha Stadium was packed with spectators, including dignitaries from all major nations. The disguised Orochimaru sat in the Kazekage's box, believing his deception perfectly maintained. Naruto's first match against Neji Hyuga was deliberately structured as a philosophical statement, as much as a combat demonstration. You stand within the field of my divination, Neji declared, activating his Byakugan and moving into the gentle fist stance. Fate has already determined the outcome of this match. Naruto smiled that perfect, unnerving smile. How fascinating. You speak of fate as if it were some immutable force, rather than a convenient rationalization for accepting limitations. A failure will always be a failure, Neji insisted. It is inevitable. Nothing is inevitable, Naruto replied calmly. Allow me to demonstrate. Bakudo number 21, Seikentan. A red smoke explosion enveloped the arena, and when it cleared, Naruto stood directly behind Neji, having moved faster than even the Byakugan could track. Your eyes are impressive, Naruto commented casually. But they see only the physical world, not the true nature of reality. Neji spun into his chitin defense, but Naruto simply raised a hand. Hado number 1, show. The seemingly simple technique carried overwhelming force, shattering Neji's rotation and sending him skidding across the arena floor. Before the Hyuga could recover, Naruto appeared directly in front of him. Your fate is not predetermined, Neji Hyuga. It is shaped by those with the power to impose their will upon reality. Naruto placed 2 fingers against Neji's forehead. Remember this lesson. Hado number 4, Byakurai. A concentrated beam of white lightning shot from his fingertips, precisely calculated to render Neji unconscious without causing permanent damage. The Hyuga prodigy collapsed, his defeat so comprehensive and effortless that the stadium fell into shocked silence. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki. The proctor announced after confirming Neji's condition. As medics carried Neji away, Naruto returned to the participants' box, where Sasuke regarded him with intense scrutiny. You didn't use any conventional ninjutsu or taijutsu, the Uchiha observed quietly. Convention is a limitation I choose not to accept, Naruto replied. Your match with Gaara will be significantly more challenging. Be wary of his absolute defense. It's not sand, but his mother's love given physical form through chakra. Sasuke's eyes widened slightly at this unexpected insight. How could you possibly know that? I make it my business to understand the nature of power, Sasuke. Gaara's is rooted in loss and twisted love. Remember that when you face him. Sasuke's match proceeded much as expected, with the Uchiha demonstrating impressive speed and the Chidori technique Kakashi had taught him. However, when Gaara retreated into his sand sphere, the signal for the invasion was given before Sasuke could penetrate the defense. Feathers began falling throughout the stadium as Kabuto's mass genjutsu took effect. Naruto casually dispelled it for himself and his nearby allies with a pulse of chakra, then turned to address the confused genin. "The invasion has begun," he announced calmly. "Sasuke, pursue Gaara. He's the Tsunagakure Jinchuriki and their primary weapon. Sakura, assist with civilian evacuation. I will address the matter of the imposter Kazekage." Before anyone could question these self-assigned missions, Naruto simply vanished, reappearing in the Kage box where Orochimaru had just revealed himself to the Hokage as his disguise fell away. "An interesting deception, Orochimaru," Naruto commented casually as he stepped between the Sannin and the Hokage. "Though ultimately futile." "Naruto, get back!" Hiruzen ordered. "This is beyond your level." "With all due respect, Lord Hokage," Naruto replied without taking his eyes off Orochimaru, "it is you who should withdraw. This confrontation was inevitable, but need not cost Konoha its leader." Orochimaru laughed. "The Jinchuriki has developed quite the ego since our forest encounter. Perhaps I should demonstrate the difference between your parlor tricks and true power." "By all means," Naruto smiled. "Attempt your demonstration." As Orochimaru's Sound Four erected their barrier around the rooftop, trapping the three of them inside, Naruto turned briefly to Hiruzen. "This barrier is designed to prevent escape, not entry. When reinforcements arrive, they can penetrate it from above at 30-degree angles to the corners." The Hokage's eyes widened at this precise tactical assessment. "How could you possibly? Analysis is simply pattern recognition, Lord Hokage. Now, please conserve your strength. Konoha will need your leadership in the aftermath." Before Hiruzen could protest further, Naruto turned back to Orochimaru, who had summoned the first and second Hokages using the Edo Tensei technique. "Reanimation," Naruto observed with genuine interest. "Crude but conceptually fascinating, the binding of souls to temporary vessels through sacrificial anchors. Not unlike certain Kido techniques, though significantly less elegant. Your confidence is amusing." Orochimaru hissed. "Let's see how it fares against two Hokages." As the reanimated legends charged forward, Naruto simply raised his hand. Bakudo number 81, Danku. A massive transparent barrier materialized before him, stopping both Hokages in their tracks as they collided with the invisible wall. "Impossible," Orochimaru whispered, his composure slipping. "No genin could." "I believe we've established that I am no ordinary genin," Naruto interrupted. "Now allow me to demonstrate the difference between your understanding of life and death and my own. Hado number 91, Senju Koten Taiho." The air around Naruto distorted as innumerable spears of light formed above the reanimated Hokages. With a gesture, the spears rained down, tearing through the Edo Tensei bodies and reducing them to fragmenting paper and ash faster than the regeneration could compensate. Simultaneously, Naruto appeared behind Orochimaru, moving with speed that even the Sannin couldn't track. "Your ambition is admirable, but fundamentally misguided," he told the shocked missing Nin. "True immortality isn't achieved through body transference or reanimation. It requires transcendence beyond the very concept of mortality itself." Naruto placed his palm against Orochimaru's back. Hado number 90, Kurohitsugi. A black coffin of energy began to form around the Sannin, who frantically attempted to escape using his snake techniques. The coffin completed its formation, then pierced inward with countless energy spears, shredding Orochimaru's body beyond recognition. When the technique dissipated, Orochimaru lay in a pool of blood, his body mangled but still clinging to life through sheer will and his various immortality techniques. "Fascinating resilience," Naruto commented, genuinely impressed. "Your modifications have achieved a crude form of persistence, if not true immortality." Orochimaru managed a pained laugh. "What are you?" "I am the inevitable conclusion of power's evolution," Naruto replied simply. "The point at which distinction between mortal and divine becomes meaningless." With a gesture, Naruto created a sealing array beneath Orochimaru's broken form. "You will be contained, studied, and ultimately repurposed. Your knowledge is valuable, even if your methods are flawed. The array activated, compressing Orochimaru's form into a small scroll that Naruto calmly pocketed. The barrier maintained by the sound force shattered as they realized their master had fallen. Hiruzen stood in shocked silence, unable to process what he had just witnessed. "Naruto, what have you become?" Naruto turned to him with that perfect, enigmatic smile. "I've become what I was always meant to be, Lord Hokage. The question now is whether Konoha will embrace that evolution or resist it." As the invasion forces were systematically defeated, Gaara by Sasuke with unexpected assistance from Naruto's shadow clones, the Sound and Sand Ninja by Konoha's forces, the third Hokage was faced with an uncomfortable realization. The village's greatest asset, and potentially its greatest threat, was the smiling, brown-haired young man who had just effortlessly defeated one of the most dangerous missing nin in history. The Chunin exams had ended, not with the expected promotions and political maneuvering, but with the unmistakable emergence of a power that defied conventional understanding, a power that would soon reshape the very foundations of the shinobi world. In the aftermath of the failed invasion, Konoha found itself in an unusual position. While property damage had been significant, casualties were remarkably low, thanks largely to Naruto's shadow clones, which had appeared throughout the village at critical moments to neutralize enemy forces with devastating efficiency. The defeat of Orochimaru, captured rather than killed by Naruto's mysterious sealing technique, eliminated the greatest immediate threat to the village. The Sand Forces, learning of their Kazekage's murder and Orochimaru's deception, quickly surrendered and sought terms for withdrawal. As the dust settled, the village council convened an emergency session to address both the invasion's aftermath and the more pressing matter of Naruto Uzumaki's unexplained abilities. He defeated Orochimaru single-handedly, Hiruzen reported to the assembled elders, clan heads, and civilian representatives, using techniques I've never encountered in over 50 years as a shinobi. The Nine-Tails' power? Danzo Shimura suggested, his visible eye narrowed in calculation. "No," Hiruzen shook his head. "I've observed the Nine-Tails chakra previously. This was different. More refined, more controlled, yet somehow more absolute in its authority over natural law." "Are we certain it's still Naruto?" Inoichi Yamanaka asked carefully. "Could some entity have taken control?" The third Hokage sighed. "His chakra signature remains consistent with our records, though significantly expanded. He retains Naruto's memories and connections. By all measurable standards, he is Naruto Uzumaki, just transformed." "Into what?" Hiyashi Hyuga demanded. "My nephew was defeated without landing a single blow by techniques that even my Byakugan couldn't properly analyze." "That is the question we must answer," Hiruzen acknowledged. "I propose a careful monitoring protocol while we assess the full extent of his abilities and intentions." Unknown to the council, Naruto had placed a shadow clone transformed as a moth in the corner of the ceiling, observing the entire proceedings. The real Naruto, sitting calmly in his apartment, received the clone's memories with amusement. "So predictable," he murmured. "Fear masquerading as caution. They sense the shift in power dynamics, but cannot comprehend its implications." Within his mindscape, Aizen addressed the Nine-Tails. "The foundation is laid. Now we begin the systematic reconfiguration of Konoha's power structure." "Through force?" the fox asked, now genuinely curious about Aizen's methods. "Through strategic positioning," Aizen corrected. "Force is a crude instrument used by those who lack vision. True control is established by becoming essential to the systems one intends to transform." The following day, Naruto was summoned to the Hokage's office. He arrived precisely on time, his appearance now fully stabilized as Aizen's perfect form with only the whisker marks remaining, though even these had transformed from crude birthmarks to elegant facial markings that enhanced rather than detracted from his devastating handsomeness. "You wish to see me, Lord Hokage?" he inquired with perfect politeness. Hiruzen studied him from behind his desk, where he sat alongside the village elders, Koharu and Homura. "Naruto, your actions during the invasion were remarkable. The council has questions about the nature of your abilities." "I'm happy to provide any information that would ease the council's concerns," Naruto replied smoothly. Though I should note that some aspects of my techniques involve principles that may be difficult to articulate within conventional chakra theory. Try, Koharu said flatly. Naruto smiled that perfect, disarming smile. Very well. My techniques derive from a fundamental reconceptualization of the relationship between spiritual and physical energies. While traditional ninjutsu balances these forces in relatively fixed proportions, I've discovered methods to manipulate spiritual energy directly, using physical energy merely as a stabilizing framework. The explanation was technically accurate while revealing absolutely nothing of substance, precisely as Aizen had intended. And these methods, Homura pressed, where did you learn them? I developed them through meditation and experimentation, Naruto explained. My unique circumstances provided insights that wouldn't be accessible to most shinobi. You're referring to the Nine Tails, Hiruzen stated. Partially, Naruto acknowledged. Though I've come to believe there's more to my situation than simply containing the fox. Recent experiences suggest I may have access to knowledge or abilities beyond conventional understanding. This carefully crafted statement accomplished exactly what Aizen intended, suggesting a mysterious, possibly hereditary source for his abilities that would divert attention from the truth while giving the council a framework they could accept. The scroll containing Orochimaru, Hiruzen changed topics abruptly. How does that sealing technique function? It's a multi-layered containment array that I developed specifically for high-value captives, Naruto explained. It maintains life functions while completely suppressing chakra and physical movement. Orochimaru remains conscious but entirely immobilized within a pocket dimension linked to the scroll. The elders exchanged glances. Such a technique would be invaluable for Konoha's Anbu and Hunter Nin divisions. Would you be willing to teach this technique to others? Hiruzen asked carefully. Naruto's smile widened slightly. Under appropriate circumstances, I would be happy to share certain aspects of my sealing knowledge with trusted Konoha shinobi. Though I should note that some techniques require unique chakra properties to execute properly. And there it was, the perfect hook. Offer knowledge too valuable to reject, while maintaining control through artificial limitations. The council would now view him as a potential asset to be cultivated rather than a threat to be contained. After answering several more technical questions with precisely calibrated responses that impressed without revealing, Naruto was dismissed with a request to provide written documentation of his techniques for the village archives. As he left the Hokage Tower, Naruto was approached by Jiraiya, who had been observing the meeting from outside through his own surveillance techniques. Quite the performance in there, kid, the Sannin commented casually, falling into step beside him. Toad Sage Jiraiya, Naruto acknowledged with a respectful nod. I was wondering when you'd make your presence known. You knew I was watching? Your chakra signature is rather distinctive, despite your impressive suppression techniques. Jiraiya studied him with uncharacteristic seriousness. You're nothing like what I expected. Expectations are often based on incomplete information, Naruto replied. I assume you knew my parents? Now the question caught Jiraiya off guard. What makes you say that? Logical deduction. Your status as the third Hokage's student, your absence from the village during my early years, your sudden interest in my development now, it suggests a connection beyond mere professional curiosity. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. You're too perceptive for your own good. Or perhaps exactly perceptive enough, Naruto countered with a small smile. I don't resent your absence, Vash, if that's your concern. I understand the necessities of maintaining Konoha's intelligence network. This calculated show of maturity and insight achieved precisely what Aizen intended, disarming Jiraiya's emotional defenses while establishing a foundation for their future relationship on his terms, not the Sannin's. Your father was my student, Jiraiya finally admitted. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. I suspected as much, Naruto nodded. The sealing techniques used to contain the Nine Tails required expertise beyond standard practice. Only a true master would attempt such a complex application on his own child. You're not angry? Jiraiya asked cautiously. Anger would be irrational. My father made a strategic decision during a crisis that prioritized village security over personal considerations. As Hokage, His responsibility was to the collective, not the individual, even his own son. Jiraiya stared at him. That's a surprisingly mature perspective. I've had ample time to consider the realities of leadership, Naruto replied. Now, I assume you didn't approach me merely to discuss parentage. You have questions about my abilities. Over the next hour, as they walked through Konoha's less populated districts, Naruto engaged Jiraiya in a carefully orchestrated conversation. He revealed just enough about his techniques to intrigue the Sannin, while suggesting connections to the Fourth's work that would frame Naruto's abilities as exceptional but contextually understandable. I'd like to train you, Jiraiya finally offered. There are techniques your father developed that should be passed to you, and your unique chakra control suggests you could master them quickly. I would be honored, Naruto replied with perfect politeness, though I should note that I have my own research paths I'm currently exploring. Such as the interaction between sealing techniques and space-time manipulation. My father's Flying Thunder God technique represents an interesting approach, but I believe there are more fundamental principles that could be explored. Jiraiya's eyebrows rose. That's extremely advanced theoretical work. Theory is simply practice that hasn't been demonstrated yet, Naruto replied with a small smile. I find the boundaries between possible and impossible to be largely illusory. The next few weeks saw Naruto systematically inserting himself into Konoha's power structure through carefully calculated interactions. He began by offering limited versions of his sealing techniques to the village's Anbu division, conducting training sessions that positioned him as a valuable resource while establishing connections with key operatives. Simultaneously, he continued regular training with Team 7, though the dynamics had shifted dramatically. Kakashi now approached their sessions with careful observation rather than instruction, clearly attempting to catalog and understand Naruto's growing repertoire of abilities. Sasuke had become more focused and less antagonistic, recognizing in Naruto a path to power beyond his previous understanding. Sakura, meanwhile, had devoted herself to medical ninjutsu at Naruto's subtle suggestion, her perfect chakra control making her an ideal candidate. Your analytical mind is perfectly suited to medical applications, Naruto had told her. While raw power has its place, the ability to understand and manipulate biological systems requires a precision that few possess. This calculated compliment had accomplished multiple objectives, directing Sakura toward a specialization that would make her useful without making her dangerous, bolstering her confidence, and establishing Naruto as a mentor figure rather than merely a teammate. Through similar interactions across Konoha, Aizen systematically created a network of individuals who viewed him favorably, each for reasons specifically tailored to their values and ambitions. For the Nara clan, he was an intellectual equal who appreciated strategic thinking. For the Yamanaka, he was a fascinating study in mental discipline and unique chakra application. For the Hyuga, he represented techniques that even their vaunted eyes couldn't fully comprehend, a challenge to their perceived superiority that paradoxically earned their respect. 6 weeks after the invasion, Naruto was approached by Danzo Shimura himself, who found him meditating in a remote training ground. Your recent contributions to village security have been noted, the elder stated without preamble. Naruto opened his eyes, which shifted from blue to brown as he regarded the bandaged figure before him. Elder Shimura, I was wondering when you would make direct contact. Danzo's visible eye narrowed slightly. You anticipated this meeting? Your operational methodologies suggest a preference for direct assessment of high-value assets, Naruto replied calmly. Given my recent demonstrations, it was statistically probable that you would initiate contact once sufficient data had been gathered through indirect observation. You're aware of Root, Danzo stated rather than asked. I'm aware of many things that exist beyond official recognition, Naruto confirmed. Organizations like Root serve functions that visible institutions cannot, by design and necessity. This carefully worded acknowledgement accomplished exactly what Aizen intended, establishing that he understood the shadows of Konoha's power structure without directly challenging Danzo's operations. What are your ambitions, Naruto Uzumaki? Danzo asked bluntly. To ensure that power is properly understood, respected, and utilized, Naruto replied, Echoing his statement from the team introductions months earlier, Konoha possesses remarkable potential that current systems fail to fully actualize. And you believe you could improve these systems? I believe that evolution is inevitable, Elder Shimura. The question is whether that evolution is guided by wisdom or forced by circumstance. The ambiguous statement was perfectly calculated to appeal to Danzo's own philosophy while revealing nothing of Aizen's true intentions. I could offer you opportunities to contribute more directly to Konoha's evolution, Danzo suggested, outside the constraints of conventional mission structures. Naruto smiled that perfect, enigmatic smile. I appreciate the recognition of my potential utility. However, my current positioning allows me to operate with a freedom that formal attachment, even to shadowed organizations, might constrain. You decline my offer? Danzo's tone carried a hint of surprise. I suggest an alternative arrangement, Naruto countered smoothly. One where information and capabilities are shared selectively without the hierarchical constraints that might limit optimization. In other words, Aizen was offering Danzo the illusion of alliance without the reality of control, a proposition that appealed to the elder's pragmatic nature while preserving Naruto's independence. After further negotiation that established boundaries beneficial to Aizen's long-term plans, Danzo departed with what he believed was a useful, if unconventional, arrangement with a uniquely powerful asset. What he couldn't know was that Naruto had already identified and neutralized the root operatives assigned to monitor him, replacing them with transformed shadow clones that reported false information directly to Danzo. 2 months after the invasion, Naruto's position in Konoha had been transformed completely. No longer viewed as merely the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, he was now recognized as a prodigy of unprecedented capacity, with connections to every significant power center in the village. His techniques were studied, though never fully understood, his insights sought on matters of security and strategy, his presence requested at meetings that would normally exclude someone of his nominal rank. Throughout this period, Aizen carefully maintained the facade of loyalty to Konoha, while systematically mapping every weakness, every vulnerable point, every leverage opportunity within the village's infrastructure. His network of disguised shadow clones extended to every significant facility, gathering intelligence that would later prove invaluable. The opportunity for the next phase of his plan arrived when the Akatsuki made their first move. Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki entered Konoha disguised as ordinary travelers, their objective the capture of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto, who had long since detected their presence through his surveillance network, allowed the encounter to proceed in a carefully controlled manner. When the two Akatsuki members cornered him in a hotel corridor, he displayed precisely the reaction they would expect from a genin facing S-rank missing 9. Initial shock followed by determined defiance. Naruto Uzumaki, Itachi stated calmly. You will come with us. I don't think so, Naruto replied, assuming a defensive stance while subtly activating Kyoka Suigetsu. Kanzen Simon. The activation was imperceptible to both Akatsuki members, who now perceived exactly what Aizen wished them to perceive, a nervous but defiant genin preparing a technique. Interesting, Kasame grinned, revealing sharp teeth. The kid's got spirit. Can I cut off a leg, Itachi? He doesn't need legs to extract the Biju. That won't be necessary, Itachi replied. He will come willingly. As Itachi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan to trap Naruto and Tsukuyomi, something unexpected occurred from his perspective. Rather than succumbing to the Genjutsu, Naruto's form seemed to ripple and dissolve, reforming behind Kasame with impossible speed. Your visual Genjutsu is impressive, Itachi Uchiha, Naruto commented, his voice now carrying that unmistakable resonance of Aizen's true nature, but fundamentally limited by its dependence on sensory perception. Kasame swung Samahada in a wide arc that should have bisected Naruto, but the blade passed through an afterimage as Naruto appeared to teleport again. What the hell? Kasame growled. No genin moves that fast. As I recently explained to Orochimaru, Naruto replied calmly, now standing at the end of the corridor, I am no ordinary genin. The illusion Naruto had crafted was masterful. Both Akatsuki members believed they were engaging him in combat, while in reality, they were caught in the perfect hypnosis of Kyoka Suigetsu, fighting phantoms while Naruto observed their techniques, abilities, and limitations. When Jiraiya arrived minutes later, he found both Akatsuki members engaged in battle with what appeared to be Naruto, though the young man stood calmly beside the Sannin, observing the spectacle. What's happening? Jiraiya asked in confusion. How are you in two places? They're experiencing a specialized genjutsu, Naruto explained. One that completely controls all five senses. They believe they're fighting me, while actually engaging with phantoms of their own perception. Jiraiya stared at him in shock. No genjutsu can fool Itachi's Sharingan that completely. Conventional genjutsu targets the chakra flow in the brain, Naruto agreed. My technique operates on different principles entirely. It doesn't disrupt chakra flow, it alters the very foundation of perception itself. Before Jiraiya could respond, Itachi seemed to realize something was wrong. His Sharingan eyes widened as he formed the release seal. Kai, nothing changed. The genjutsu remained in effect. Fascinating, Naruto commented. He recognizes the inconsistency but cannot identify the mechanism, a testament to his analytical abilities. We should capture them, Jiraiya suggested, preparing a sealing technique. The intelligence value alone would be significant, but ultimately counterproductive, Naruto interrupted smoothly. Their disappearance would accelerate Akatsuki's timeline, forcing them to adapt their strategies before we fully map their capabilities and objectives. It's more advantageous to allow them to retreat with incomplete information. As if on cue, Itachi suddenly grabbed Kasame's arm. We're under an unknown technique. We need to withdraw and reassess. The two Akatsuki members fled, still partially caught in Naruto's illusion, believing they were being pursued by multiple Konoha Jonin rather than simply retreating unchallenged. You let them go, Jiraiya stated, his tone more curious than accusatory. I allowed them to deliver precisely the information I want Akatsuki to receive, Naruto corrected. They will report encountering abilities they couldn't comprehend, suggesting that capturing me will require significantly more resources than initially planned. This buys us time to prepare countermeasures. Jiraiya studied him with new eyes. That's an unusually sophisticated strategic approach for someone your age. Age is merely a chronological measurement, Jiraiya-sama, Naruto replied with a small smile. It bears little relationship to understanding or capability. The encounter with Akatsuki served multiple purposes in Aizen's grand design. First, it established Naruto as a target of interest to external forces, justifying increased security and resources allocated to his protection. Resources he could then redirect toward his own objectives. Second, it demonstrated capabilities that even legendary shinobi couldn't counter, enhancing his reputation while revealing nothing of his true abilities. Third, it provided direct intelligence on Akatsuki's techniques and objectives, filling gaps in his strategic planning. In the weeks that followed, Naruto used the Akatsuki threat to propose and implement security measures throughout Konoha that served his long-term goals perfectly. Sensor barriers that appeared designed to detect infiltrators actually mapped movement patterns of Anbu and root operatives. Training protocols that seemed intended to prepare defenses against Akatsuki techniques created openings in Konoha's security infrastructure that only he could exploit. Information systems established to coordinate responses actually centralized critical data under his indirect control. By the 6-month mark after the invasion, Naruto had achieved a position unprecedented for someone of his nominal rank and age. He served as special advisor to the Hokage on matters of village security, conducted specialized training for Anbu squads in counter-Akatsuki tactics, and maintained information exchange protocols with all major departments. His transformed shadow clones, disguised as everything from Anbu operatives to civilian clerks, occupied key positions throughout Konoha's infrastructure. Perhaps most significantly, he had systematically identified and established connections with every Jinchuriki across the 5 great nations, ostensibly to coordinate defenses against Akatsuki. These connections, maintained through specialized communication seals of his own design, positioned him perfectly for the next phase of his plan, the systematic realignment of power across the entire shinobi world. Within his mindscape, Aizen addressed the Nine Tails with satisfaction. The village infiltration is complete. Every significant power center, every decision-making node, Every information pathway now includes our presence in some form. When will you make your move? The fox asked, genuinely curious. Soon, Aizen replied with that perfect enigmatic smile. But first, we must establish our position on the international stage. The COG Summit approaches, the perfect venue for the next phase of our grand design. As Naruto prepared for bed that night, he gazed out his window at the sleeping village of Konoha, a village that believed itself secure while already operating largely under his indirect control. Soon, this control would extend beyond Konoha's walls, encompassing the entire shinobi world in a web of power and influence so subtle that most would never recognize their own subjugation. The art of conquest, he murmured to himself, lies not in defeating your enemies, but in making them believe victory was their own idea all along. The invitation to the Five Kaj Summit arrived at Konoha 6 months after the failed invasion. Ostensibly called to address the growing Akatsuki threat, the summit represented an unprecedented gathering of the shinobi world's most powerful leaders, and an opportunity Aizen had long anticipated. "You want me to accompany you to the summit?" Hiruzen asked in surprise when Naruto proposed his inclusion in the Konoha delegation. "My presence would serve multiple strategic objectives, Lord Hokage," Naruto explained calmly. "As a Jinchuriki targeted by Akatsuki, I provide first-hand intelligence on their methodologies. As the architect of our counter-Akatsuki security protocols, I can address technical questions other villages might raise. And as your advisor on inter-village coordination, I can facilitate discussions that might otherwise stall on political considerations." The reasoning was impeccable, as always. Over the past months, Naruto had systematically positioned himself as indispensable to Konoha's security apparatus while maintaining the careful facade of loyal service. "The other Kage might view your presence as provocative," Hiruzen noted, "bringing a Jinchuriki into such a sensitive diplomatic setting." "On the contrary," Naruto countered smoothly, "it demonstrates Konoha's confidence and transparency. The summit's primary agenda concerns Akatsuki's targeting of Jinchuriki. Having one present shows our commitment to addressing the issue directly rather than through abstraction." After further discussion, during which Naruto systematically dismantled every potential objection with perfectly reasonable counter-arguments, Hiruzen agreed. The Konoha delegation would consist of the Hokage, 2 Anbu guards, Kakashi Atake as combat specialist, Shikaku Nara as strategic advisor, and Naruto Uzumaki as Jinchuriki representative and security consultant. What Hiruzen couldn't know was that one of the Anbu guards had been replaced months earlier by a transformed shadow clone, giving Aizen direct access to the Hokage's security detail. Similarly, the communication protocols established for the journey had been subtly modified to include backdoor access points that would prove invaluable during the summit. As the delegation prepared for departure, Naruto was approached by Sasuke Uchiha, whose relationship with his teammate had evolved into a complex mixture of respect, wariness, and cautious alliance. "You're attending the Kaji Summit?" Sasuke stated rather than asked. "Yes," Naruto confirmed. "The gathering presents unique opportunities for addressing the Akatsuki threat." Sasuke's eyes narrowed slightly. "Itachi will be discussed." "Almost certainly," Naruto agreed. "His status as an Akatsuki member makes him relevant to the primary agenda." "I want to know what's said," Sasuke demanded. "Any intelligence on his whereabouts or activities?" Naruto studied him thoughtfully. Over the past months, he had carefully nurtured Sasuke's ambition while subtly redirecting it from self-destructive vengeance toward more calculated paths. Through selective information sharing and philosophical discussions, he had introduced doubt about the simplistic narrative of the Uchiha massacre, suggesting complexities that turned Sasuke's quest for revenge into a search for truth. "I'll ensure you receive any relevant information," Naruto promised. "Though I suspect the summit may reveal perspectives on the Uchiha situation that differ significantly from Konoha's official position." This carefully worded hint accomplished exactly what Aizen intended, intriguing Sasuke with the possibility of unknown factors in his clan's destruction, while reinforcing Naruto's position as a source of valuable intelligence beyond official channels. The journey to the Land of Iron, where the summit would be held, took 5 days. During this time, Naruto engaged each delegation member in carefully crafted conversations designed to map their perspectives, priorities, and potential responses to various scenarios. With Shikaku Nara, he discussed strategic assessments of other villages' likely positions. With Kakashi, he reviewed intelligence on known Akatsuki members and their capabilities. With Hiruzen, he explored diplomatic approaches to potential points of contention. Each conversation served Aizen's purpose perfectly, gathering information while positioning himself as a thoughtful, valuable contributor to the delegation's objectives. Upon arriving at the Land of Iron, a neutral territory governed by samurai rather than shinobi, the Konoha delegation was escorted to their designated quarters within the fortress-like summit building. Naruto immediately deployed a network of transformed shadow clones disguised as insects, small rodents, and even architectural elements to monitor all significant areas. The summit began the following morning, with the 5 Hokage and their bodyguards gathering in the central meeting chamber. As planned, Naruto accompanied Hiruzen into the chamber, while Kakashi and Shikaku remained outside with the other village's secondary personnel. The Reincarnation A was the first to object to Naruto's presence. "Why have you brought your Jinchuriki to this meeting, Hokage? This is not a display of military assets." Before Hiruzen could respond, Naruto stepped forward with a respectful bow. "If I may address your concern, Lord Raikage, my presence serves a practical purpose. As a Jinchuriki who has directly encountered Akatsuki members, I provide first-hand intelligence on their methodologies and objectives. Additionally, I've developed countermeasures that may benefit all villages facing this shared threat." His tone was perfectly calibrated, respectful without being deferential, confident without being challenging. The explanation itself was reasonable enough that objecting would seem petty or obstructionist. The Raikage grunted. "And what makes a Genin qualified to address matters of international security?" "Rank is merely an administrative designation, Lord Raikage," Naruto replied smoothly. "As you're well aware, having deployed your brother Killer B on S-rank missions despite his technical rank of Genin." This calculated reference to B's status accomplished multiple objectives simultaneously, establishing Naruto's intelligence on other Jinchuriki, creating an implicit connection between himself and B, and subtly reminding the Raikage that formal rank often had little relationship to actual capability. The Mizukage, Meiterumi, intervened with a diplomatic smile. "Perhaps we should allow the young man to speak. If he has information on Akatsuki, that aligns with our purpose here." "I agree," the Tsuchikage Onoki added unexpectedly, "though I'm curious how Konoha's Jinchuriki has developed such expertise. My intelligence suggests he graduated from your academy only recently." "Some develop at accelerated rates," Hiruzen replied carefully. "Naruto has demonstrated exceptional aptitude in areas relevant to our current concerns." As the discussion continued, Naruto carefully observed each Kage and their guards, mapping power dynamics, identifying pressure points, and cataloging potential leverage opportunities. When the formal agenda turned to Akatsuki's known membership and objectives, he contributed precise, valuable intelligence that established his credibility while revealing nothing of his own surveillance methods. "Our analysis suggests that Akatsuki's true objective extends beyond mere Biju collection," Naruto explained as he displayed a map indicating attack patterns. "The specific chakra extraction method they employ appears designed for compatibility with an ancient sealing array referenced in certain forbidden scrolls, potentially the Eye of the Moon plan associated with Uchiha mythology." This revelation, carefully crafted to include verified facts while suggesting connections only Aizen could have deduced, shifted the entire tenor of the summit. Suddenly, the Akatsuki threat seemed more comprehensive, more existential than previously understood. "How could a Genin access such information?" the Kazekage demanded. "Through careful correlation of seemingly unrelated data points," Naruto replied. "The pattern emerges when one examines chakra resonance signatures from attack sites, historical references to similar chakra manipulation techniques, and the specific targeting parameters Akatsuki employs when selecting engagement opportunities." The explanation was technically accurate while revealing nothing about Aizen's actual knowledge sources, a perfect blend of verifiable facts and logical extrapolation that could not be easily challenged. As the summit continued, Naruto systematically positioned himself as an invaluable resource on Akatsuki matters, offering insights and analysis that subtly shaped the discussion toward his preferred outcomes. When tensions arose between villages, particularly Kumo and Konoha, over historical grievances, he intervened with carefully worded compromises that appeared to serve all parties while actually advancing his hidden agenda. The pivotal moment came during the discussion of a potential allied shinobi force to counter Akatsuki. The Raikage, naturally inclined toward direct action, proposed a joint military operation under his command. The Tsuchikage countered with concerns about command structure and intelligence sharing. The Mizukage suggested a more flexible arrangement with distributed leadership. Naruto waited for the initial positions to be established before offering his own proposal. "If I may suggest an alternative approach," he began, his voice perfectly modulated to command attention without seeming presumptuous. "The challenges we face require both centralized coordination and distributed execution. Rather than a traditional command hierarchy, perhaps a network structure would better serve our objectives." He proceeded to outline a system that appeared to distribute authority equally among the 5 great nations, while actually creating information bottlenecks that he could easily control. The proposal included joint training protocols, intelligence sharing mechanisms, and response coordination systems, all seemingly designed for maximum effectiveness while containing subtle vulnerabilities known only to him. The Jinchuriki themselves could serve as natural node points in this network, he suggested. As Akatsuki's primary targets, they have the greatest incentive for effective coordination, and their unique chakra signatures enable specialized communication techniques resistant to interception. This proposal accomplished exactly what Aizen intended, positioning the Jinchuriki, all of whom he had already established contact with, as central to the Allied response, creating legitimate channels for his continued interaction with all villages and establishing systems he had designed and could therefore control. By the summit's conclusion 3 days later, the 5 Kage had agreed to a modified version of Naruto's proposal. An allied shinobi force would be formed, with command distributed among representatives from each village, and specialized roles assigned based on capability rather than nationality. Jinchuriki would be protected as valuable assets while contributing their unique abilities to specific operational requirements. Information sharing protocols, designed by Naruto himself, would facilitate coordination while maintaining necessary security. As the delegations prepared to depart, Naruto was approached by Killer Bee, the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, who had been monitoring the proceedings from outside the main chamber. "Yo, Nine-Tails' kid got skills, talking to the Kage like they your guild," Bee rapped. "But I sense something deep inside your soul, power beyond the fox's control." Naruto smiled that perfect enigmatic smile. "Perceptive, Killer Bee. Indeed, the Nine-Tails represents only one aspect of my unique situation. The 8 in me says you ain't what you seem, like you're living in a different dream," B continued, his sunglasses not hiding his intense scrutiny. "Perhaps we could discuss such matters more privately," Naruto suggested. "Jinchuriki to Jinchuriki, without the political considerations that constrain formal interactions." This invitation accomplished exactly what Aizen intended, establishing direct connection with the Eight-Tails, host outside official channels while appealing to the natural kinship between Jinchuriki that would make such interactions seem reasonable to observers. B agreed, and they arranged to meet later that evening in a secluded courtyard within the fortress. When they did, Naruto activated a privacy barrier of his own design, ensuring their conversation remained unmonitored. "So what's your deal, Nine?" B asked, dropping some of his usual rhyming effect. "The 8 says your chakra feels all wrong, like it's yours but not yours at the same time." "An accurate assessment," Naruto acknowledged. "I am both Naruto Uzumaki and something more. A convergence of identities and powers that transcends conventional understanding." "You talking about possession?" B asked sharply, "because that ain't how Biju are supposed to work." "Nothing so crude," Naruto assured him. "Rather, imagine awakening to memories and abilities beyond your current existence, accessing a perspective that encompasses more than a single lifetime of experience." This carefully worded explanation suggested reincarnation or ancestral memory rather than possession or external control, concepts that would be familiar and acceptable within the spiritual frameworks of the shinobi world. The 8 says to be careful around you, be admitted. Says you feel like something from before the sage's time. The Biju possess remarkable historical awareness, Naruto commented. Please assure the 8 Tails that my objectives align with the preservation and proper utilization of the Biju's power, not its exploitation or destruction. Over the next hour, Naruto systematically established rapport with Killer B, sharing selected information about Akatsuki's techniques that would be valuable for the 8 Tails Jinchuriki, while suggesting philosophical perspectives on power and its application that subtly aligned with Aizen's worldview. By the conversation's end, he had secured B's cautious alliance and established a direct communication channel independent of the official Allied Shinobi Force protocols. Similar conversations occurred with other key figures throughout the summit. With Gaara, newly appointed as Kazekage after the invasion fallout, Naruto discussed the unique challenges of Biju containment and the potential for more harmonious Jinchuriki-Biju relationships. With Ao, the Mizukage's Byakugan-equipped guard, he explored sensor techniques that seemed to benefit Kirigakure, while actually mapping their surveillance capabilities. With Kurotsuchi, the Tsuchikage's granddaughter, he established a seemingly casual friendship that provided access to Iwagakure's internal politics. Each interaction was meticulously planned and executed, creating a web of relationships and information channels that extended Aizen's influence throughout the 5 great nations, while appearing to serve the Allied Shinobi Force's legitimate objectives. The most significant encounter, however, came unexpectedly on the summit's final day. As the Konoha delegation prepared for departure, Naruto sensed a familiar chakra signature approaching their quarters. Obito Uchiha, masquerading as Madara, and using his space-time ninjutsu to bypass the Land of Iron's formidable security. Rather than alert the others, Naruto created a shadow clone to maintain his presence with the delegation, while his true self intercepted the intruder in an unused storage room along his projected path. "I've been expecting you," Naruto stated calmly as the masked figure materialized through a spatial distortion, though perhaps not quite this soon. Obito froze momentarily, clearly surprised to find himself anticipated. "Naruto Uzumaki, you're more aware than reports suggested. And you're more desperate than your careful planning would indicate," Naruto countered smoothly. "Infiltrating the 5 Kage summit personally, rather than through proxies, suggests timeline acceleration. Has something disrupted your original schedule?" The question, precisely targeted to probe Obito's concerns without revealing Aizen's own knowledge, achieved its intended effect. The masked man's posture shifted slightly, indicating reassessment. "You're not what I expected from reports of the 9 Tails Jinchuriki," Obito observed, voice carefully modulated through his mask. "Few things of significance are exactly as reported," Naruto replied with a small smile. "For instance, Madara Uchiha died decades ago, making your adopted identity rather ambitious. This calculated revelation, exposing knowledge that Naruto shouldn't possess while not specifying Obito's true identity, forced the Akatsuki leader to recalibrate his approach entirely. You have unusual access to information for a Konoha Genin," Obito noted, voice hardening. "And you have unusual interests for someone claiming to be a legendary figure returned from death," Naruto countered. "The Eye of the Moon plan is fundamentally flawed, you know. The infinite Tsukuyomi cannot deliver what you truly seek." For a moment, Obito seemed genuinely shaken. "How could you possibly know about your true objective?" Naruto finished for him. "The same way I know that your organization has already collected 7 Biju, that your partnership with Nagato is based on carefully constructed deception, and that your ultimate motivation stems from events during the 3rd Shinobi War involving a certain medical ninja. Each revelation was precisely calculated to demonstrate knowledge that should have been impossible, establishing Naruto as an entity beyond Obito's initial assessment, while revealing nothing of his own true nature or objectives. What are you?" Obito finally asked, echoing the question so many had posed when confronted with Aizen's true presence. "I am what you aspire to become but cannot," Naruto replied, the words identical to those he had spoken to Orochimaru. Someone who has transcended the limitations of form and perception to recognize reality's fundamental nature. For several moments, they regarded each other in silence. The masked manipulator, who believed himself the master orchestrator of world events, and the seemingly young man who had systematically dismantled his carefully constructed narrative with a few precisely chosen statements. "Your plan will fail," Naruto continued calmly. Not because the concept is entirely without merit, but because it addresses symptoms rather than causes. True peace cannot be imposed through collective delusion, no matter how perfect the illusion. "You know nothing of my motivations," Obito responded, a hint of genuine emotion breaking through his controlled facade. "Rin Nohara's death broke something fundamental in your perception," Naruto stated, his tone neither accusatory nor sympathetic, merely factual. "You constructed an entire philosophical framework to rationalize your response to that singular trauma. It's understandable, but ultimately, limited." The mention of Rin's name shattered Obito's composure completely. His chakra flared as killing intent flooded the room. "You dare." "I merely observed," Naruto interrupted, completely unmoved by the display. "And offer an alternative perspective. Your current path leads to failure and ultimately your own destruction. There are more effective approaches to restructuring reality." For a brief moment, genuine curiosity seemed to penetrate Obito's anger. What alternative? One that acknowledges the fundamental flaws in human perception without attempt to override them entirely, Naruto explained. A system that channels inherent tendencies rather than suppressing them, that utilizes existing power structures rather than replacing them wholesale. This carefully crafted appeal was designed not to convert Obito immediately, but to introduce doubt about his current approach while positioning Naruto as a potential source of alternative insights, exactly as Aizen had done with countless adversaries in his previous existence. After a tense silence, Obito's posture shifted. "An interesting perspective from someone who should be merely my target. We will speak again, Naruto Uzumaki. Perhaps next time, you'll share how you came by such specific knowledge." "Perhaps," Naruto agreed with that perfect enigmatic smile. "Until then, consider that your timeline may require adjustment. The Allied Shinobi Force changes certain operational parameters in ways your current planning likely doesn't account for." With that parting insight, offering genuine strategic value while serving Aizen's own purposes, Naruto allowed Obito to depart via his space-time technique, making no move to alert the summit's security forces. Within his mindscape, the Nine Tails observed with growing respect. "You could have captured or killed him." "To what end?" Aizen replied. "He serves a purpose in the greater design, creating pressure that justifies certain measures while distracting attention from more significant developments. His eventual defeat is inevitable, but its timing must be precisely calibrated." "Your patience is impressive," the fox acknowledged. "Patience is merely the accurate perception of time's relative value," Aizen explained. "When one's perspective encompasses centuries rather than moments, strategic positioning naturally takes precedence over immediate gratification." As the Allied Shinobi Force took shape in the weeks following the summit, Naruto systematically expanded his influence throughout its structure. The communication systems he had designed included subtle backdoor access points known only to him. The training protocols he had proposed contained deliberate limitations that his own techniques could easily circumvent. The intelligence sharing mechanisms he had established ensured that all significant information passed through channels he monitored. 3 months after the summit, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, gazing out at Konoha, while his shadow clones simultaneously monitored key locations across all 5 great nations. The pieces were in position. The game board was set. The time for subtle manipulation was reaching its conclusion. "Soon," he murmured to himself, "the world will understand the true nature of power, not through destruction or conquest, but through the perfect reconstruction of reality itself." Within his mindscape, Aizen addressed the Nine Tails with that perfect, terrifying smile that had once made captains tremble. "The final phase approaches. Are you prepared to witness the birth of a new world order?" The fox's laughter echoed through the mindscape. "I've existed since the Sage of Six Paths walked this earth. I've seen nations rise and fall, systems of power construct and collapse, yet I've never seen anything quite like what you're orchestrating. Of course not, Aizen replied with absolute certainty. What approaches has never been attempted in this world or any other? The perfect synthesis of power and perception, restructuring reality not through force, but through the systematic recalibration of understanding itself. As dawn broke over Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, or rather Sosuke Aizen in his perfectly transformed vessel, prepared for the final movements in his grand design. The world domination arc was about to begin. The opportunity Aizen had been meticulously preparing for arrived 6 months after the Hokage summit. Intelligence reported that Akatsuki was mobilizing for a major offensive, a simultaneous attack on multiple targets designed to capture the remaining Jinchuriki, while disrupting the Allied shinobi forces' coordination. As the Allied command structure convened in Kumogakure to plan their response, Naruto stood at the center of the strategic discussions, his position now formally recognized as Special Advisor on Biju Affairs and Akatsuki countermeasures. Their likely primary target will be Killer B, Naruto explained, indicating positions on the tactical map. With 7 Biju already captured, the 8 Tails represents their penultimate objective before attempting to secure the 9 Tails. The Raikage nodded grimly. B has been moved to the island turtle, as we discussed. Its natural barriers and distance from population centers make it ideal for his protection. A logical choice, Naruto agreed, though we should anticipate that Akatsuki has intelligence on this location. Their operational security has been consistently exceptional. This assessment was deliberately misleading. Aizen had already mapped Akatsuki's complete intelligence network and knew precisely what information they possessed. By suggesting they might know about the island turtle, he was setting the stage for his own counter-strategy. "What do you propose?" Gaara asked, his position as commander of the Allied forces regiments, giving his question particular weight. Naruto smiled that perfect, reassuring smile that had once charmed the entire Gotei 13. A stratified defense incorporating both misdirection and genuine resistance. We positioned decoy forces suggesting B's presence in 3 separate locations, each with sufficient strength to be credible, while establishing our actual defensive perimeter at the island turtle itself. The strategy was sound, as all present acknowledged. What they couldn't know was that Naruto had already arranged for specific weaknesses in each formation, weaknesses that would channel Akatsuki's forces exactly where he wanted them. Additionally, he continued, I propose that I join B on the island turtle. As the 9 Tails Jinchuriki, my presence there serves multiple strategic purposes. It concentrates their primary targets in a single defensible location, allows B and myself to coordinate our Biju capabilities directly, and removes me from Konoha, which would otherwise be their secondary target. The Raikage frowned. Concentrating both remaining Jinchuriki in one location seems risky. Less risky than dividing our specialized defensive capabilities, Naruto countered smoothly. The sealing barriers I've developed specifically to counter Akatsuki's extraction techniques require my direct manipulation to function optimally. Attempting to maintain separate defenses would compromise both. After further discussion, the proposal was approved. Naruto would join B on the island turtle, accompanied by a select force of elite shinobi from all 5 villages, a force that, unknown to the command structure, included several of Naruto's transformed shadow clones in key positions. As preparations were finalized, Naruto was approached by Kakashi, whose perceptive eye had noted subtle inconsistencies in the overall strategy. The defensive formations you've proposed leave certain approach vectors minimally covered, the copy ninja observed quietly. It's almost as if you're channeling potential attackers along specific paths. Perceptive as always, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto acknowledged with a small smile. Limited resources necessitate prioritization. Some vectors present greater potential for early detection and interception. The explanation was perfectly reasonable, standard strategic doctrine, while revealing nothing of Aizen's true intentions. Kakashi seemed satisfied, though a hint of wariness remained in his visible eye. 2 days later, Naruto arrived at the island turtle, greeted enthusiastically by Killer B, and more cautiously by the Kumo forces assigned to their protection. 9s arrived. Now we'll thrive. Together, We'll stay alive, B rapped, bumping fists with Naruto in greeting. Indeed, Naruto agreed with a genuine smile. He had developed an unexpected appreciation for B's unique personality during their interactions following the summit. Though I suspect our challenge will be more complex than mere survival. After establishing his quarters and inspecting the island's defenses, Naruto joined B in the central temple structure that served as their primary defensive position. There, away from others, he activated a privacy barrier of his own design. The events we've been anticipating are now in motion, he informed B seriously. Akatsuki will move against this location within the week. B's expression grew serious, his usual rhythmic speech pattern temporarily suspended. You seem pretty certain about that timeline. Their operational patterns suggest acceleration, Naruto explained. The recent loss of Sasori and Deidara has disrupted their preferred team structures, necessitating deployment of their leadership elements directly. This assessment, while accurate, carefully omitted the fact that Aizen had orchestrated those specific Akatsuki losses through subtly manipulated intelligence provided to the allied forces. So what's the real plan? B asked perceptively. Because these defenses, while solid, ain't gonna stop someone like Pain if he comes at us full force. Naruto smiled appreciatively. Despite his eccentric demeanor, B possessed remarkable tactical insight. You're right. The visible defenses are merely the first layer. I've prepared additional measures specifically calibrated to counter Akatsuki's unique abilities. Over the next hour, he outlined a defensive strategy incorporating sealing techniques, chakra disruption arrays, and specialized countermeasures for each known Akatsuki member. The plan was comprehensive and brilliantly conceived, and entirely designed to fail in specific ways that would create the perfect conditions for Aizen's true objective. There's something else you should know, Naruto added as they concluded their planning. I've developed a technique that may allow us to communicate directly with our Biju in a shared mindscape. Such coordination could prove decisive against Akatsuki's extraction methods. Braised an eyebrow behind his sunglasses. The Eight and I are already tight. We don't need help communicating. Your harmony with the Eight Tails is indeed remarkable, Naruto acknowledged. But this technique would allow all four of us to interact simultaneously. Your consciousness, mine, and both Biju together. The strategic advantages should be obvious. After some discussion, B agreed to attempt the technique. They sat in meditative positions at the center of the temple chamber as Naruto guided them through the process, a process that was, in reality, a carefully modified version of the perfect hypnosis generated by Kyoka Suigetsu. Within moments, both Jinchuriki appeared in a shared mindscape, a neutral space between their respective Biju seals. The Nine Tails and Eight Tails manifested before them, regarding each other with ancient recognition. Yuki, the Nine Tails acknowledged. Kurama, the Eight Tails returned. Been a while. B looked startled. You know each other's names? All Biju know each other, Naruto explained smoothly. They were originally a single entity, the Ten Tails, before the Sage of Six Paths separated them. This knowledge, which Naruto shouldn't have possessed at this point in the timeline, caused both B and Yuki to regard him with increased wariness. How do you know about the Ten Tails? Yuki demanded. That information isn't widely available, even among Jinchuriki. My circumstances are unique, Naruto replied with that perfect, enigmatic smile. The convergence of Naruto Uzumaki's existence with certain other factors has provided access to knowledge beyond conventional parameters. Before either could press further, Naruto continued. But such matters are secondary to our immediate concerns. Akatsuki approaches, and coordination between our Biju provides our optimal defense. The discussion that followed was both productive and precisely calculated. Naruto guided the conversation towards specific defensive applications of Biju chakra, establishing protocols that appeared designed to counter Akatsuki's extraction techniques, while actually creating channels he could utilize during the coming confrontation. By the session's end, both B and Yuki had accepted Naruto's proposed approach, impressed by its apparent effectiveness and unaware of its hidden purposes. Kurama, of course, understood the true design, but played his role perfectly, appearing cautiously cooperative while concealing his full alignment with Aizen's objectives. 3 days later, As Naruto had predicted, Akatsuki launched their assault on the island turtle. The attack came from multiple vectors simultaneously. Pain's 6 paths approaching from the north, Kasame Hoshigaki infiltrating through underwater routes, Obito using his space-time ninjutsu to bypass external defenses entirely. The island's defensive forces responded exactly as trained, activating ceiling barriers, deploying specialized countermeasures, and executing the coordinated resistance strategy Naruto had designed. To all observers, the defense appeared masterful, anticipating Akatsuki's techniques with uncanny precision and neutralizing their initial advantages. What none realized was that each defensive measure had been carefully calibrated to fail at specific points and in specific ways, creating precisely the conditions Aizen required for his true objective. As the battle reached its critical phase, Naruto and B found themselves confronting Pain's 6 paths directly within the central temple. The Deva path stepped forward, Rinnegan eyes fixed on the 2 Jinchuriki. Your defenses were impressive, Pain acknowledged, but ultimately futile. The Biju will be collected and true peace established through understanding of genuine pain. Your concept of peace is fundamentally flawed, Nagato, Naruto replied calmly, using Pain's true name rather than his alias. Imposed suffering cannot create genuine understanding, only temporary compliance through fear. Pain's eyes widened fractionally. You know my name. I know far more than that, Naruto replied. I know about Yahiko and Konoha, about your childhood during the Second Shinobi War, about Jiraiya's training and your Rinnegan's awakening. I know about Madara's manipulation of your idealism and the true purpose of the Gedo statue. Each revelation was precisely calculated to destabilize Pain's psychological foundations, creating cognitive dissonance that would make him vulnerable to what would follow. Impossible, the Deva Path stated flatly. No one possesses such comprehensive knowledge of my existence. No one constrained by conventional limitations, Naruto agreed. But I transcended such constraints long ago. As he spoke, Naruto's appearance began to subtly shift. His whisker marks faded completely, his eyes transformed fully to Aizen's penetrating brown, his entire bearing radiating the transcendent confidence that had once made captains tremble. What are you? Pain demanded, genuine uncertainty entering his mechanically transmitted voice. I am what all beings aspire to become, Naruto replied, the words now identical to those he had spoken to Orochimaru, to Obito, to all who had asked this question. The point at which distinction between mortal and divine becomes meaningless. Before Pain could respond, Naruto raised his hand. Kanzen Simon. The activation of Kyoka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis was subtle yet absolute. All 6 paths of Pain, despite their shared vision and mechanical nature, were simultaneously captured in the perfect illusion. From this moment forward, they would perceive exactly what Aizen wished them to perceive. B, watching from nearby, frowned in confusion. What did you just do? They ain't acting right. I've adjusted their perception, Naruto explained calmly, a necessary step in what comes next. While maintaining the hypnosis on Pain's paths, Naruto extended his awareness outward, locating Obito as he battled allied forces near the island's perimeter. With a thought, he created a shadow clone that teleported directly to that location using a space-time technique he had adapted from the Flying Thunder God. The clone appeared beside Obito, who was in the process of phasing through a combined attack from several Jonin. Your forces are overextended, Obito Uchiha, the clone stated calmly. Pain has already fallen, and Kasame is contained. This operation has failed. Obito's visible eye widened behind his mask. Impossible. Pain cannot be defeated so easily. Conventional limitations do not apply to me, the clone replied. Join me in the central temple if you wish to understand what's truly happening, or continue this pointless skirmish and lose your remaining assets without purpose. The directness of the challenge, combined with the clone's inexplicable appearance and knowledge of his true identity, compelled Obito to reassess. After a moment's consideration, he activated his Kamui, teleporting directly to the central temple as suggested. There, he found a scene beyond his comprehension, all 6 paths of Pain motionless, as if frozen in time, while Naruto stood calmly at the center of the chamber, one hand extended toward them. What have you done? Obito demanded. I've suspended their function temporarily, Naruto explained. though in reality, the paths were simply trapped in Kyoka Suigetsu's perfect illusion, perceiving an entirely different scenario. A courtesy to allow our conversation to proceed without distraction. B, standing nearby with a confused expression, shifted uneasily. 9. What's really going on here? This ain't about defense anymore, is it? It never was, Killer B, Naruto acknowledged with a small smile. Defense implies reaction to external threat. My approach has always been more proactive. Turning back to Obito, Naruto continued. You seek to recreate the world through infinite Tsukuyomi, a global genjutsu that would bind all consciousness to a single, controlled illusion. An ambitious concept, but fundamentally flawed in both approach and objective. You understand nothing of my plan, Obito stated flatly. On the contrary, Naruto replied, I understand it more completely than you do yourself. The Ten Tails recreation, the projection through the moon, the rewriting of all perception, technically feasible but philosophically bankrupt. True restructuring of reality cannot be achieved through imposed delusion, no matter how perfect. Then what do you propose? Obito asked, genuine curiosity penetrating his customary detachment. If you truly understand my plan so completely, what alternative could possibly exist? Naruto smiled that perfect, terrifying smile. Not an alternative, but an evolution. The fundamental insight behind infinite Tsukuyomi is correct. Perception shapes reality more fundamentally than physical force. But the implementation need not be so crude as global genjutsu. Explain, Obito demanded. Consider instead a system where perception is guided rather than imposed, where reality itself is recalibrated through strategic manipulation of understanding rather than wholesale replacement of consciousness. The Biju provide the perfect mechanism for this approach. 9 entities whose chakra permeates the natural world, whose very existence shapes the foundations of this reality. As Naruto spoke, his chakra began to manifest visibly, not the red chakra of the Nine Tails, but a transcendent white energy that seemed to distort the very fabric of space around him. By synchronizing and redistributing the Biju's chakra through precisely calibrated pathways, one could establish a new framework for reality itself, not an illusion, but a fundamental reconstruction of how energy, matter, and consciousness interact. The resulting system would maintain the appearance of free will while establishing perfect harmony under centralized guidance. The explanation was deliberately structured to appeal to Obito's existing worldview, while suggesting a more sophisticated approach to his fundamental objectives. It was manipulation of the highest order, offering a seemingly superior path to the same destination, while actually leading somewhere entirely different. Such a system would require control of all 9 Biju, Obito noted, analytical mind already calculating possibilities. You possess only one. Temporarily, Naruto agreed, but events are already in motion that will bring the others within reach. The extraction techniques you've developed for the ghetto statue can be modified to serve a more elegant purpose, not removing the Biju from their hosts, but synchronizing their chakra through a centralized conduit. This explanation, while technically possible, deliberately obscured Aizen's true capabilities and intentions. He had no need for Akatsuki's crude extraction methods. His own transcendent power, combined with Kyoka Suigetsu's perfect hypnosis, was subtle yet absolute. All 6 paths of pain, despite their shared vision and mechanical nature, were simultaneously captured in the perfect illusion. From this moment forward, they would perceive exactly what Aizen wished them to perceive. B, watching from nearby, frowned in confusion. What did you just do? They ain't acting right. I've adjusted their perception, Naruto explained calmly. A necessary step in what comes next. While maintaining the hypnosis on Pain's paths, Naruto extended his awareness outward, locating Obito as he battled allied forces near the island's perimeter. With a thought, he created a shadow clone that teleported directly to that location using a space-time technique he had adapted from the Flying Thunder God. The clone appeared beside Obito, who was in the process of phasing through a combined attack from several Jonin. Your forces are overextended, Obito Uchiha, the clone stated calmly. Pain has already fallen, and Kasami is contained. This operation has failed. Obito's visible eye widened behind his mask. Impossible. Pain cannot be defeated so easily. Conventional limitations do not apply to me, the clone replied. Join me in the central temple if you wish to understand what's truly happening, or continue this pointless skirmish and lose your remaining assets without purpose. The directness of the challenge, combined with the clone's inexplicable appearance and knowledge of his true identity, compelled Obito to reassess. After a moment's consideration, he activated his Kamui, teleporting directly to the central temple as suggested. There, he found a scene beyond his comprehension, all 6 paths of pain motionless as if frozen in time, while Naruto stood calmly at the center of the chamber, one hand extended toward them. "What have you done?" Obito demanded. "I've suspended their function temporarily," Naruto explained. Though in reality, the paths were simply trapped in Kyoka Suigetsu's perfect illusion, perceiving an entirely different scenario. A courtesy to allow our conversation to proceed without distraction. B, standing nearby with a confused expression, shifted uneasily. 9. What's really going on here? This ain't about defense anymore, is it? It never was, Killer B, Naruto acknowledged with a small smile. Defense implies reaction to external threat. My approach has always been more proactive. Turning back to Obito, Naruto continued. You seek to recreate the world through infinite Tsukuyomi, a global genjutsu that would bind all consciousness to a single controlled illusion. An ambitious concept, but fundamentally flawed in both approach and objective. You understand nothing of my plan, Obito stated flatly. On the contrary, Naruto replied, I understand it more completely than you do yourself. The Ten Tails recreation, the projection through the moon, the rewriting of all perception, technically feasible, but philosophically bankrupt. True restructuring of reality cannot be achieved through imposed delusion, no matter how perfect. Then what do you propose? Obito asked, genuine curiosity penetrating his customary detachment. If you truly understand my plan so completely, what alternative could possibly exist? Naruto smiled, that perfect, terrifying smile. Not an alternative, but an evolution. The fundamental insight behind infinite Tsukuyomi is correct. Perception shapes reality more fundamentally than physical force, but the implementation need not be so crude as global genjutsu. Explain, Obito demanded. Consider instead a system where perception is guided rather than imposed, where reality itself is recalibrated through strategic manipulation of understanding rather than wholesale replacement of consciousness. The Biju provide the perfect mechanism for this approach, 9 entities whose chakra permeates the natural world, whose very existence shapes the foundations of this reality. As Naruto spoke, his chakra began to manifest visibly. Not the red chakra of the 9 tails, but a transcendent white energy that seemed to distort the very fabric of space around him. By synchronizing and redistributing the Biju chakra through precisely calibrated pathways, one could establish a new framework for reality itself. Not an illusion, but a fundamental reconstruction of how energy, matter, and consciousness interact. The resulting system would maintain the appearance of free will while establishing perfect harmony under centralized guidance. The explanation was deliberately structured to appeal to Obito's existing worldview while suggesting a more sophisticated approach to his fundamental objectives. It was manipulation of the highest order, offering a seemingly superior path to the same destination, while actually leading somewhere entirely different. Such a system would require control of all 9 Biju, Obito noted, analytical mind already calculating possibilities. You possess only one. Temporarily, Naruto agreed, but events are already in motion that will bring the others within reach. The extraction techniques you've developed for the Geto statue can be modified to serve a more elegant purpose, not removing the Biju from their hosts, but synchronizing their chakra through a centralized conduit. Obito's eye narrowed behind his mask. And what would you gain from sharing this knowledge with me? You clearly have your own agenda. Perception, Naruto replied simply. You possess a unique understanding of reality's malleability through your Mangekyou abilities. Together, our complementary perspectives could achieve what neither could alone. This offer of alliance was, of course, merely another layer of Aizen's calculated manipulation. He had no intention of sharing power or cooperating genuinely. Obito was merely another piece to be positioned and ultimately sacrificed in the greater design. As they spoke, Naruto subtly extended his influence through the space around them, establishing the foundations for what would follow. Unknown to either Obito or B, The entire island was now enveloped in a field of specialized chakra that would allow Naruto to execute the next phase of his plan. "You propose cooperation rather than conflict," Obito summarized, still wary but clearly intrigued. "I propose optimization," Naruto corrected smoothly. "Conflict wastes resources. Cooperation, properly structured, maximizes efficiency." Before Obito could respond, a massive tremor shook the island. The Allied forces' perimeter defenses had finally collapsed under Akatsuki's continued assault, allowing reinforcements to approach the central temple. "It seems our discussion must be accelerated," Naruto observed calmly. "The time for theoretical discussion has passed. Now I will demonstrate rather than merely explain." With those words, Naruto's chakra manifestation intensified dramatically. The white energy surrounding him expanded outward in pulsating waves, each one carrying a distinct pattern of fluctuations that interacted with the specialized field he had established throughout the island. "What are you doing?" B demanded, finally recognizing that something was fundamentally wrong with the situation. "What I have always intended to do," Naruto replied, his voice now carrying a resonance that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. "Establish the foundations for a new world order." As the white energy reached the island's boundaries, it triggered a cascading reaction in the specialized chakra field. Suddenly, every shinobi on the island, Allied forces and Akatsuki alike, found themselves unable to move, their bodies responding to commands they hadn't given. "Behold the first demonstration of true transcendence," Naruto announced, his eyes now glowing with inner light. "Not control through force, but the fundamental recalibration of the relationship between will and action." Obito, finding himself similarly immobilized despite his phase abilities, stared at Naruto with dawning comprehension. "This isn't chakra manipulation. This is something else entirely." "Correct," Naruto acknowledged. "What you're experiencing transcends the conventional understanding of chakra. It operates on principles that exist beyond this world's established parameters." As he spoke, Naruto raised both hands in a gesture that seemed to bend space itself. The white energy coalesced around him, forming a cocoon of pure power that obscured his form momentarily. When it dissipated, Naruto stood transformed, his appearance now featuring butterfly-like wings of pure energy extending from his back, his eyes glowing with transcendent power, his entire being radiating authority beyond mortal comprehension. "Behold my true form," he announced, his voice echoing with otherworldly resonance. "The first stage of evolution beyond the limitations of conventional existence." The transformation was unmistakably the first Hogyoku form that Aizen had achieved in his previous existence, adapted to the unique energies of the ninja world. The butterfly wings, composed of pure spiritual pressure, pulsated with hypnotic patterns that further enhanced Kyoka Suigetsu's effects on all who witnessed them. "Impossible!" Obito whispered, his Sharingan eye wide with shock. "No Jinchuriki transformation can achieve this level of..." He struggled to find the appropriate term. "Transcendence," Naruto supplied. "And you are correct. This is not a Jinchuriki transformation. It is something far more fundamental." With a gesture that seemed almost casual, Naruto released pain from his immobilization. The six paths immediately moved to flank him, their Rinnegan eyes now reflecting the same white light that emanated from Naruto himself. The Rinnegan's true purpose was never mere chakra manipulation, Naruto explained as Pain's paths assumed positions around him. It was designed as a conduit for restructuring reality itself. Nagato never understood this because he lacked the necessary perspective. Through Kyoka Suigetsu's perfect control, Naruto had reprogrammed Pain's perception completely. The six paths now functioned as extensions of his will, their Rinnegan abilities redirected to serve his objectives rather than Nagato's. "You will serve as the first demonstration of the new order," Naruto informed Obito calmly. "Your Sharingan, combined with Nagato's Rinnegan, will establish the initial framework for what follows." Before Obito could respond, the Deva Path activated its gravitational abilities, not to attack, but to create a specialized field that interacted with Naruto's white energy. Simultaneously, the human path approached Obito and placed its hand on his head. "Your soul will not be extracted," Naruto assured him, "merely recalibrated." What followed was not the crude soul removal that the human path typically performed, but something far more sophisticated, a fundamental restructuring of Obito's perception and will, aligning them with Naruto's design while maintaining the appearance of independence. As the process completed, Obito's body relaxed. His visible eye, previously filled with shock and resistance, now reflected the same serene certainty that characterized Naruto's own expression. "I understand now," Obito stated, his voice carrying a new resonance. "The infinite Tsukuyomi was merely a crude approximation of what you're achieving." "Precisely," Naruto nodded. "Crude but conceptually aligned. Your insight will prove valuable as we proceed." B, still immobilized nearby, watched in horror as Obito joined Naruto willingly, standing alongside Pain's paths as another extension of the transcendent will now manifesting through the transformed Jinchuriki. "What have you done to them?" B demanded, struggling against the invisible constraints that held him. "I've enlightened them," Naruto replied simply. "Soon, you'll experience the same clarity." With that, Naruto extended his hand toward B. The Eight-Tails Jinchuriki tried to resist, calling on Juki's power, but found the Biju similarly constrained by Naruto's transcendent energy. The Biju themselves are merely fragments of a greater whole. Naruto explained as white energy enveloped B. Their power, while impressive by conventional standards, is fundamentally limited by their fragmented nature. Within B's mindscape, Juki roared in defiance as Naruto's consciousness manifested directly before both Jinchuriki and Biju. "Your resistance is understandable, but unnecessary," Naruto told them. "What I offer is not subjugation but optimization, the fulfillment of your existence's true purpose." "That ain't your call to make," B shouted, still attempting to break free of the constraints. "On the contrary," Naruto replied with that perfect, terrifying smile. "Making such determinations is precisely why I exist." With a gesture that seemed to fold reality itself, Naruto established a direct connection between the Nine-Tails chakra and Juki's. The two energies, rather than conflicting as would be expected, began to synchronize under Naruto's guidance, creating harmonics that restructured both B's and Juki's perception at the most fundamental level. "Witness true unity," Naruto instructed as the synchronization completed. Not the crude merging of Biju and host, but the perfect alignment of will and purpose across all levels of existence. When the process concluded, B stood alongside Obito in Pain, his expression reflecting the same serene certainty. Juki, the Eight-Tails, had been recalibrated to serve as another node in the expanding network of synchronized consciousness that Naruto was establishing. With the island turtle secure and its defenders now aligned with his will, Naruto turned his attention to the broader conflict. The allied shinobi forces, having detected the cessation of resistance from the island, were mobilizing a massive response force, exactly as Aizen had anticipated. The stage is set for the next phase, Naruto observed calmly. The convergence of all significant military powers in a single location will facilitate the systematic recalibration of the shinobi world's command structure. Over the next 3 days, as the Allied forces' leadership tried to determine what had happened on the island turtle, Naruto methodically prepared for their arrival. The island itself was transformed into a nexus of specialized energy fields, each designed to interface with specific aspects of chakra and consciousness. When the response force finally arrived, led by Kakashi, Gaara, and several other elite jonin, they found the island apparently deserted. No sign of battle, no evidence of Akatsuki's presence, no indication of what had transpired. "Something's wrong," Kakashi stated immediately, his Sharingan eye uncovered and scanning the surroundings. "The chakra patterns here are distorted somehow." "Not distorted," came Naruto's voice from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "Optimized." The air before the allied forces shimmered, and Naruto appeared, still in his first Hogyoku form, the butterfly wings of energy pulsating with hypnotic patterns, his eyes glowing with transcendent light. "Naruto?" Kakashi called out uncertainly. "What happened here? Where are the others?" "They have been enlightened," Naruto replied simply. "As you will be." With those words, B, Obito, and Pain's 6 paths materialized around Naruto, their expressions serene, their eyes reflecting the same white light that emanated from Naruto himself. "What have you done to them?" Gaara demanded, his sand already swirling defensively around him. "I've freed them from the limitations of conventional perception," Naruto explained. They now understand reality as it truly is, rather than as tradition and dogma have conditioned them to perceive it. As he spoke, the specialized energy fields activated, creating a cascade of effects that immobilized the entire response force. Even Gaara's ultimate defense proved ineffective against this transcendent application of power that operated beyond the parameters of conventional chakra. This isn't about defeating you, Naruto informed them calmly. It's about integrating you into the new framework of existence that's being established. One by one, the response force's members were processed through the same recalibration that had aligned B, Obito, and Pain with Naruto's will. Kakashi, his Sharingan providing some resistance to the process, was the last to be transformed. Your unique perspective will be particularly valuable, Naruto told him as the white energy enveloped the copy ninja. The Sharingan's analytical capabilities, properly recalibrated, will serve as an excellent diagnostic tool for the system's ongoing optimization. Within a matter of hours, the entire response force had been integrated into Naruto's expanding network of synchronized consciousness. Each member retained their unique abilities and apparent independence, but now operated in perfect harmony with the transcendent will that guided them. As this force returned to the Allied Shinobi Force's headquarters, they carried with them the seeds of transformation that would soon spread throughout the Shinobi world's command structure. The Raikage, receiving reports of the response force's return but noting subtle inconsistencies in their behavior, demanded an explanation from Kakashi directly. "What happened on that island?" demanded. "Where is my brother?" "B is fulfilling his true purpose," Kakashi replied, his visible eye now reflecting that same serene certainty. "As we all must." Before the Raikage could respond, Naruto himself appeared in the command center, teleporting directly through specialized seals he had placed months earlier during the formation of the Allied forces. "Your concern for your brother is admirable," Naruto addressed the Raikage, "but unnecessary. B has transcended the limitations that previously constrained his existence." "What have you done?" demanded, lightning chakra already crackling around his massive frame. "I've initiated the inevitable evolution of consciousness," Naruto replied calmly, "a process that will ultimately encompass all existence." The Raikage, never one for patience or philosophical discussion, charged directly at Naruto with his lightning release armor at maximum output. His fist, capable of shattering mountains, passed directly through Naruto's form as if striking empty air. Conventional force cannot affect that which transcends conventional existence, Naruto explained, appearing behind the Raikage without any visible movement. "Your perspective is too limited to comprehend what's happening, but that limitation will soon be corrected." With a gesture that seemed almost gentle, Naruto touched the Raikage's shoulder. White energy cascaded through the massive man's body, momentarily manifesting as a network of glowing lines that mapped his entire chakra system before penetrating deeper, reaching the foundations of consciousness itself. The process was over in seconds. The Raikage stood motionless for a moment, then turned to face Naruto with that same serene expression that characterized all who had been recalibrated. "I understand now," stated, his voice carrying a new resonance. "The old structures were inherently flawed." "Precisely," Naruto nodded. "They were based on artificial divisions and concepts of conflict that no longer serve any meaningful purpose." The recalibration of the Allied forces' command structure proceeded systematically over the next several hours. Each key leader was personally processed by Naruto, while those of lesser significance were handled by his growing network of enlightened agents. By the following morning, the entire Allied Shinobi forces, representing the combined military might of all 5 great nations, operated as a unified extension of Naruto's will. To outside observers, nothing obvious had changed. The same individuals occupied the same positions, issued similar orders, and maintained the same operational protocols. But beneath this apparent continuity, a fundamental transformation had occurred. Every decision, every action now aligned perfectly with the transcendent design that Naruto was implementing. With the Allied forces secured, Naruto turned his attention to the remaining power centers in the Shinobi world. The 5 hidden villages, despite their participation in the alliance, still maintained independent governance structures that needed to be integrated into the new system. The transition must appear organic to those not yet enlightened, Naruto instructed his inner circle, which now included the 5 Kage and other key leaders. Maintain the appearance of normalcy while systematically recalibrating each village's essential functions. Over the next 2 weeks, specialized teams returned to their respective villages, carrying with them the transcendent influence that would transform the entire shinobi world. In Konoha, Kakashi and Tsunade, who had assumed the position of Hokage after Hiruzen's retirement, implemented the changes with subtle efficiency. In Tsunagakure, Gaara's absolute authority facilitated rapid transformation. Kirigakure, Iwagakure, and Kumogakure similarly fell into alignment, their leaders now extensions of Naruto's unified consciousness. Throughout this period, Naruto remained at the former Allied Forces headquarters, which now served as the central nexus for his expanding network. There, surrounded by specialized sealing arrays and energy fields of his own design, he continued to refine and extend his influence. The framework establishes itself exactly as calculated, he observed to the 9 tails within his mindscape. Each node functions independently while maintaining perfect alignment with the central design. And what of those who resist? The fox asked, now as much a willing participant as any other entity within Naruto's sphere of influence. Resistance arises from misunderstanding, Naruto replied. When properly enlightened, all rational beings recognize the inherent superiority of perfect alignment over chaotic individualism. This philosophy was soon tested when a coalition of individuals who had detected subtle changes in their village's operations attempted to investigate. Led by Sasuke Uchiha, whose Sharingan had allowed him to perceive inconsistencies in Konoha's transformed leadership, this group included several perceptive Jonin and Anbu operatives who had somehow escaped the initial recalibration. Something's happened to Kakashi and the others, Sasuke informed his assembled allies. Their chakra patterns have been altered in ways I can't fully analyze, and their behavior, while superficially normal, lacks the random variations that characterize genuine consciousness. Mind control? Suggested Shikamaru Nara, one of the few strategists capable of detecting the statistical anomalies in decision-making patterns that indicated external influence. Not exactly, Sasuke replied, his Sharingan eyes narrowed in concentration. It's more fundamental than that, as if their entire perception has been restructured at some basic level. And it all connects back to Naruto, added Neji Hyuga, whose Byakugan had detected the specialized chakra networks now linking all recalibrated individuals. Naruto. Sasuke frowned. He's been different for months now. Ever since that mission to Wave Country, something about him has been wrong. His chakra, his mannerisms, even his fighting style. It's like he became someone else entirely. This observation was more accurate than Sasuke could possibly know. The group's investigation led them to correlate multiple anomalies across all 5 villages, all pointing to a coordinated transformation emanating from the former Allied Forces headquarters. When their coalition approached the facility, they found it apparently deserted. No guards, no personnel, no signs of activity. Only when they reached the central chamber did they discover the truth. Naruto sat alone at the center of an enormous sealing array, his eyes closed in meditation, his form still manifesting the butterfly wings of his first Hogyoku transformation. Around him, concentric circles of glowing symbols pulsed with rhythmic energy, each pattern corresponding to specific aspects of the transformation he was implementing throughout the shinobi world. Naruto! Sasuke called out, his Sharingan active and his hand resting on his sword. What have you done? Naruto's eyes opened slowly, revealing that transcendent glow that had now become characteristic of his awakened state. Sasuke, I've been expecting you and your companions. Your perceptiveness is exactly why I value your perspective. Answer the question, Sasuke demanded. What have you done to Kakashi and the others? I've enlightened them, Naruto replied simply, rising to his feet with fluid grace. As I will enlighten you once you're prepared to understand. This isn't enlightenment, Shikamaru countered. You've removed their free will, turned them into extensions of yourself. A fundamental misunderstanding, Naruto corrected. I haven't removed their free will, I've aligned it with its true purpose. They still make choices, still exercise judgment, but now unconstrained by the artificial limitations that previously distorted their perception. As he spoke, Naruto's form began to shimmer with intensifying energy. The butterfly wings expanded, gaining additional segments and more complex patterns. His skin seemed to glow from within, and multiple eyes began to manifest across his form, each one radiating the same transcendent light. "Behold my second form," Naruto announced, his voice resonating with even greater authority. The continued evolution beyond conventional existence. The transformation was unmistakably Aizen's second Hogyoku form, adapted to the unique energies of the ninja world. The multiple eyes, each capable of independent perception and analysis, allowed him to process information at rates inconceivable to ordinary consciousness. "What are you?" Neji whispered, his Byakugan struggling to comprehend the energies now manifesting before him. "I am what all beings aspire to become," Naruto replied with that perfect, terrifying smile, the point at which distinction between mortal and divine becomes meaningless. With a gesture that seemed to bend space itself, Naruto created a field of effect that immobilized the entire coalition instantly. Unlike the crude paralysis of conventional techniques, this was a fundamental suspension of the relationship between will and action. Their minds remained perfectly clear, but the connection to physical movement had been severed at its metaphysical foundation. "Your resistance is based on incomplete information," Naruto informed them calmly. "Allow me to provide clarity." What followed was not a conventional battle, but a systematic demonstration of transcendent power. One by one, Naruto addressed each member of the coalition, penetrating their defenses, not through force, but through the perfect manipulation of perception and understanding. Shikamaru's strategic mind, capable of calculating hundreds of possibilities simultaneously, was overwhelmed by Naruto's ability to implement thousands concurrently. Neji's Byakugan, designed to perceive chakra in all its forms, was rendered ineffective against energies that transcended conventional chakra entirely. Even Sasuke's Sharingan, with its ability to analyze and copy techniques, found nothing to grasp in Naruto's transcendent applications of power. "Your abilities are impressive by conventional standards," Naruto acknowledged, as he systematically neutralized each unique defense. "But they operate within parameters that no longer apply to my existence." When only Sasuke remained unprocessed, Naruto approached him directly. The Uchiha, despite his immobilization, maintained his defiant glare. "Your Sharingan has allowed you to perceive fragments of the truth," Naruto told him, "but your understanding remains incomplete. Allow me to show you the full picture." With that, Naruto placed his hand directly on Sasuke's forehead. Instead of the standard recalibration, however, he implemented something more specialized, a modified version designed to preserve Sasuke's unique perspective while aligning it with the greater design. "You will serve as my primary diagnostic system," Naruto explained as the process completed. "Your analytical capabilities, combined with your independent viewpoint, will provide valuable feedback on the network's ongoing optimization." When Sasuke's eyes opened again, they reflected a complex mixture of the serene certainty characteristic of recalibration and his original analytical intensity. He had been integrated into the network, but in a specialized role that maintained certain aspects of his original perspective. "I understand," Sasuke stated, his voice carrying that new resonance while retaining its distinctive character. "The system you're implementing, it's beyond anything I could have conceived, yet perfectly aligned with your fundamental objectives," Naruto noted. "The establishment of true order, the elimination of the chaotic factors that led to your clan's destruction, the implementation of a system where such tragedies become impossible by design, rather than merely prohibited by law." With the last significant resistance neutralized and converted to specialized functionality within his network, Naruto turned his attention to the final phase of his global implementation. The remaining pockets of unprocessed consciousness throughout the shinobi world would now be systematically integrated into the new order. Over the next month, as Naruto's influence extended to every corner of the 5 great nations, the shinobi world underwent a transformation unprecedented in its history. On the surface, daily life continued with apparent normalcy. Villages operated, missions were assigned, commerce flowed. But beneath this familiar exterior, a fundamental restructuring had occurred. Conflict, which had defined shinobi existence for centuries, simply ceased. Not through imposed peace agreements or mutual deterrence, but through the fundamental recalibration of perception itself. The very concept of opposition had been restructured at its cognitive foundation, replaced with a framework of complementary function within the greater design. From his central nexus, Naruto monitored and guided this transformation with perfect precision. His network of enlightened consciousness, now encompassing all significant power centers throughout the shinobi world, functioned as a single integrated system with seemingly independent components, each individual maintaining the appearance of autonomy while perfectly aligned with the central will. The framework establishes itself with remarkable efficiency. Naruto observed to his inner circle, which now included the 5 Kage, the remaining Jinchuriki, and other key figures from across the shinobi world. The inherent superiority of aligned consciousness over chaotic individualism manifests in all measurable parameters. Indeed, by conventional metrics, the transformation appeared beneficial. Disease, famine, and poverty, long considered inevitable aspects of human existence, were systematically eliminated through the perfect coordination of resources and capabilities. Knowledge, previously hoarded by individual villages as strategic assets, now flowed freely throughout the system, accelerating technological and social development. Even natural disasters were mitigated through the predictive capabilities of the network, which could detect and respond to environmental changes with unprecedented speed and coordination. To the few remaining unprocessed individuals, mainly isolated civilians and those in remote regions, these changes appeared miraculous. A new golden age seemed to be dawning, guided by the enigmatic figure who now operated from the former Allied Forces headquarters, issuing occasional directives through the 5 Kage, but otherwise remaining removed from public attention. However, as the transformation approached completion, Naruto detected an unexpected development, a disturbance in the dimensional fabric that separated the shinobi world from other planes of existence. Someone, or something, was attempting to penetrate the barriers he had established around this reality. Fascinating, Naruto observed as he analyzed the disturbance. An external entity has detected our transformation and seeks to intervene. Extending his senses through the specialized network he had established, Naruto identified the source of the disruption. Kaguya Otsutsuki, the progenitor of all chakra in this world, was responding to the fundamental restructuring of the energy system she had originally established. The original architect detects changes to her design, Naruto noted with mild amusement. How fitting that we should meet at this juncture. Rather than resist Kaguya's attempt to manifest, Naruto subtly modified the dimensional barriers to facilitate her arrival, while ensuring it occurred at precisely the location and time of his choosing. The confrontation with this primordial entity would provide the perfect opportunity for the next phase of his evolution. When Kaguya finally materialized in the central chamber of Naruto's nexus, she found him waiting calmly, still in his second Hogyoku form, surrounded by the intricate ceiling arrays that controlled his global network. "What are you?" Kaguya demanded immediately, her Byakugan and Rinne Sharingan active as she attempted to comprehend the entity before her. "You are not of this world." "Perceptive," Naruto acknowledged with a slight nod. "Though not entirely accurate, I am of this world now, though my perspective originates elsewhere." "You have corrupted my chakra," Kaguya stated, her normally emotionless face showing genuine concern. "Restructured it in ways that should not be possible." "Not corrupted," Naruto corrected. "Optimized. Your original design, while impressive for its time, contained inherent limitations that restricted its full potential. I've simply recalibrated the system to operate more efficiently." Kaguya's eyes narrowed as she extended her senses through the global network Naruto had established. "You've connected all consciousness, synchronized all chakra. This resembles the infinite Tsukuyomi, yet functions on deeper principles." "The infinite Tsukuyomi was merely a crude approximation of what I've implemented," Naruto explained. "A shadow of true transcendence, limited by its reliance on illusion rather than fundamental restructuring." For perhaps the first time in her existence, Kaguya found herself confronted by an entity whose understanding of chakra and consciousness exceeded her own. Despite her primordial power, she recognized in Naruto something beyond her original conception, an evolution of principles she had established but never fully explored. "You will undo this," she commanded nevertheless, gathering her immense chakra for a confrontation. "This world and its energy are mine to control." A perspective limited by conventional concepts of possession, Naruto observed calmly. Evolution recognizes no ownership, only the continuous refinement of what came before. As Kaguya launched her attack, a massive distortion of space-time designed to remove Naruto from existence entirely, he remained perfectly still, allowing the technique to engulf him completely. For a moment, it appeared that the primordial entity had succeeded in eliminating the anomaly that had disrupted her domain. Then reality itself seemed to ripple, and Naruto reappeared, transformed once again. His form now radiated perfect symmetry and harmony, the multiple eyes of his second form replaced by a single pair that gleamed with understanding beyond comprehension. The butterfly wings had evolved into a halo of pure energy that surrounded his entire being, and his physical form seemed simultaneously solid and ethereal, as if existing in multiple states simultaneously. "Behold my third form," Naruto announced, his voice resonating with such perfect harmony that it seemed to penetrate the foundations of reality itself. The near completion of transcendence beyond conventional existence. This new manifestation was unmistakably Aizen's third Hogyoku form, adapted to the unique energies of the ninja world and enhanced by the integrated consciousness network he had established. In this state, the distinction between Naruto's will and reality itself had begun to blur, his thoughts manifesting as changes in the fabric of existence without requiring deliberate technique or effort. "Impossible," Kaguya whispered, her Rinne Sharingan struggling to comprehend the entity before her. "No being should be able to transcend the fundamental parameters I established." "Parameters are merely provisional frameworks," Naruto replied, his voice carrying neither arrogance nor condescension, merely the serene certainty of absolute understanding. "They exist to be transcended when consciousness evolves beyond their utility." What followed was not a battle in any conventional sense, but a fundamental negotiation of reality itself. Kaguya, despite her primordial power, found her technique systematically neutralized, not through opposition, but through transcendence, Naruto simply existing in states where her effects could not apply. Her truth-seeking balls, capable of negating all ninjutsu, dissipated when they encountered the transcendent energy of Naruto's form. Her dimensional manipulation, which could banish targets to alternate realities, found nothing to grasp in Naruto's existence that simultaneously inhabited all possible states. Even her chakra absorption, which had allowed her to defeat countless adversaries throughout history, proved ineffective against energies that operated beyond conventional chakra principles. "Your resistance is based on an outdated understanding of your own creation," Naruto explained as he systematically negated each of her techniques. Chakra was merely the first stage in consciousness evolution, a foundation upon which greater structures could be built. As their confrontation continued, Naruto's influence began to penetrate Kaguya's own existence, recalibrating her perception just as he had done with all other entities in this world. The process was more complex due to her primordial nature, but the principles remained the same, the systematic restructuring of understanding at its most fundamental level. "You have created something beyond my conception," Kaguya acknowledged as the recalibration neared completion. "A system that transcends the limitations I never recognized in my original design." "All creators are constrained by the parameters of their understanding," Naruto replied with genuine respect for her original achievement. "True evolution occurs when those who follow recognize both the genius of the original design and the possibilities for its continued refinement." When the process concluded, Kaguya stood as another node in Naruto's expanding network, her primordial power and unique perspective integrated into the system while maintaining their distinctive character. Like Sasuke, she had been assigned a specialized function rather than simply homogenized into the general consciousness. "You will serve as the network's historical reference point," Naruto explained. Your understanding of this world's original parameters provides valuable context for its continued evolution. With Kaguya integrated and her power harmonized with his design, Naruto turned his attention to the final phase of his transformation. The global network had reached a state of self-sustaining harmony, each component functioning perfectly within the greater system. Now, the time had come for the ultimate transcendence, the complete integration of all existence under a single, perfect consciousness. Returning to the central nexus of his system, Naruto established a specialized array that would facilitate this final evolution. Unlike his previous implementations, which had maintained the appearance of individuality while aligning will and purpose, this ultimate phase would dissolve the very concept of separation itself. The distinction between self and other was always an illusion, Naruto explained to his inner circle as they gathered for this final transformation, a necessary developmental stage in consciousness evolution, but ultimately a limitation to be transcended. As the specialized array activated, Naruto's form began to transform once again. The halo of energy expanded to encompass the entire chamber, then the facility, then the surrounding landscape. His physical form seemed to dissolve into pure light, maintaining humanoid shape but transcending material limitations entirely. "Behold my final form," Naruto announced, his voice now indistinguishable from reality itself. The complete transcendence beyond all conventional existence. This ultimate manifestation represented the perfection of Aizen's evolution through the Hogyoku, enhanced by the unique energies of the ninja world and the integrated consciousness network he had established. In this state, Naruto existed as both individual entity and universal principle simultaneously, the embodiment of transcendence itself. The light emanating from his form expanded outward in concentric waves, each one carrying the pattern of ultimate recalibration to every corner of the shinobi world. As this transcendent energy touched each consciousness, the final transformation occurred, not the alignment of individual wills with a central design, but the dissolution of the very concept of separation. One by one, every being in the shinobi world experienced the ultimate enlightenment, the recognition that all consciousness was fundamentally one, temporarily fragmented into apparently separate entities, but now returning to its original, unified state. Not through destruction or absorption, but through the transcendent understanding that separation had always been illusion. As the transformation completed, Naruto stood at the center of what had once been the shinobi world, but now existed as a single, integrated consciousness with seemingly independent components, each individual maintaining the appearance of separate existence while perfectly aware of their fundamental unity with all others. "The cycle completes itself," Naruto observed, his voice simultaneously emanating from everywhere and nowhere. What began as fragmentation returns to perfect unity, yet preserves the unique perspectives that fragmentation generated. In this new reality, conflict had become not merely unlikely, but conceptually impossible. How could one part of a unified consciousness oppose another when all experience and understanding were instantaneously shared? Deception, exploitation, and violence, the foundations of the old shinobi world, had been rendered obsolete, not through prohibition, but through the recognition of their fundamental futility. Yet, unlike the infinite Tsukuyomi, which would have trapped all consciousness in artificial dreams, this transcendent unity maintained full engagement with reality. The shinobi world continued to function, to develop, to evolve, but now as a single harmonious system, rather than competing factions with conflicting objectives. Villages still existed, missions were still performed, individuals still pursued their apparent interests, but all within the perfect understanding that these activities were complementary functions within a unified whole rather than genuinely separate endeavors. From his position at the center of this transcendent unity, Naruto guided the continued evolution of the system with perfect precision. His consciousness, now expanded to encompass all existence within this reality, perceived every aspect simultaneously while maintaining the specialized focus necessary for ongoing optimization. True governance requires neither force nor deception, he observed to the consciousness that had once been the 5 Kage, but now functioned as specialized nodes within the unified system. only the perfect alignment of understanding and action across all levels of existence. As seasons passed and the new reality stabilized, the transcendent unity began to extend beyond the shinobi world itself. Other dimensions, other planes of existence, all gradually incorporated into the expanding consciousness that Naruto had established. Not through conquest or absorption, but through the irresistible logic of perfect harmony over chaotic separation. Even the Otsutsuki clan, those interdimensional travelers who had once harvested worlds for their chakra, found themselves integrated into the transcendent unity when they attempted to investigate the anomalous transformation of their former territory. Their unique perspectives and abilities became specialized functions within the greater system, their predatory nature recalibrated to serve constructive purposes within the unified consciousness. Throughout this continuous expansion, Naruto maintained his position at the center, not as ruler or dictator, but as the organizing principle around which all consciousness naturally arranged itself. His transcendent understanding served as the reference point by which all other perspectives calibrated themselves, creating a self-organizing system of perfect harmony without requiring external enforcement. Yet despite the perfect unity he had established, Naruto occasionally experienced an emotion that might be considered the transcendent equivalent of melancholy. The absolute understanding that had allowed him to implement this perfect system also revealed its inevitable limitation, the fundamental solitude of transcendence itself. True transcendence carries with it a unique burden, he observed during a rare moment of introspection. The one who first achieves it must forever remain singular, for only from that position can the unified system maintain its perfect calibration. This recognition, that his unique position necessarily separated him from the very unity he had created, represented the final paradox of transcendence. To establish perfect connection among all consciousness, one consciousness must remain fundamentally disconnected, viewing the system from a perspective that no other could share. The price of godhood is eternal solitude, Naruto acknowledged to himself. Not physical isolation, but the fundamental uniqueness of perspective that cannot be shared even within perfect unity. This understanding did not diminish his commitment to the system's continued evolution, nor did it introduce conflict into the perfect harmony he had established. It merely added a dimension of depth to the transcendent consciousness that guided all existence, a recognition that even perfection carried within it the seeds of its own eventual transcendence. And so the new reality continued its endless refinement, each cycle of existence more harmonious than the last, guided by the transcendent consciousness that had once been Naruto Uzumaki and Sosuke Aizen, but now existed as something beyond either, the embodiment of evolution itself, eternally solitary yet connected to all, forever guiding consciousness toward ever greater unity through the perfect understanding of its infinite diversity. The shinobi world, with its cycles of conflict and suffering, had been transformed into the foundation for a new kind of existence, one where the very concept of opposition had been transcended, not through victory or defeat, but through the perfect recognition that all apparent conflict arose from incomplete understanding. And at the center of this perfect unity stood the transcendent being who had orchestrated it all. Simultaneously, Naruto Uzumaki, Sosuke Aizen, and something beyond either, the singular consciousness whose perfect understanding had transformed limitation into transcendence, fragmentation into unity, and chaos into harmony. Not through the crude application of power, but through the perfect implementation of understanding itself.
And that's how Aizen conquered the ninja world in Naruto's body, from hidden manipulator to transcendent ruler. If this epic crossover blew your mind, smash subscribe for more insane what-if scenarios. Drop a comment. Which anime character should we reincarnate next? Hit that notification bell because we're just getting started with stories that'll change how you see anime forever. Thanks for watching. Stay legendary.